I'd like to go ahead and read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the Payom Kawicham people of the West as the traditional land caretakers of the land on which Oceanside is built and its surrounding traditional cultural landscapes. Today, the Payom Kawicham are known as Liseño and are made up of 7 bands: La Jolla, Palma, Pechanga, Rincon, San Luis Rey, and Saboba. We are mindful of the indigenous peoples in this place, and we pay our respects to Liseño, past, present, and emerging. We are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this community in Liseño territory and to honor their history, culture, and perseverance of spirit. Thank you. All right, we are here for one workshop item, and that is item number 1. Staff recommends the City Council receive a comprehensive report on the city's general plan update and climate action plan efforts to date, receive public comments, and provide direction to staff on the GPU and CAP for future City Council consideration and adoption. Mr. Borrego, would you like to lead us off?
Sure, thank you. Honorable Mayor and council members, it's a pleasure being here this evening at a critical point to the process of our comprehensive general plan update. As many of you know, this effort was launched in 2020. It has taken longer than we expected, but largely due to reasons that were beyond our staff's control, including, of course, the pandemic, which kicked in right after we launched the project. And then probably most significantly, we were at the mercy of getting technical information from some other outside agencies that we had to rely on for the preparation of the plan. And that took a long time because those agencies were not very fast in getting that information, literally probably added close to 2 years to the project. But in any case, here we are tonight. We're very excited to present this update to you. I wanted to kind of caution everyone that the presentation that you're about to see is fairly lengthy, and that's only because there's a lot of material to cover. This document, as I mentioned earlier, is 5 years in the making and has been the beneficiary of hundreds, if not thousands, of public comments along the way. So I just wanted to also let you know in terms of the presentation of tonight's format, the way that we're going to do it is we will be giving just a couple of slides on each of the elements. After we present on each of the elements, we will take a break to take questions from the City Council only, for clarification on the material that we had just presented before we move on to the next element to discuss. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Darlene Nicandro, our Development Services Director. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, members of the public. My name is Darlene Nicandro. I'm the Director of Development Services for the city. And I'm very pleased to facilitate a workshop tonight regarding the general plan update and climate action plan. Staff recommends the City Council receive a comprehensive report on the general plan update and climate action plan efforts to date, receive public comments, and provide direction to staff on the GPU and the CAP for future City Council consideration and adoption. I just wanted to quickly go over the workshop agenda. As Jonathan alluded to, there are specific subjects that 3 staff members sitting here at the dais are going to cover. Of these 6, there's going to be a section on the general plan update, the elements, project deliverables, the Smart and Sustainable Corridors specific plan, the CAP, and then finally the draft environmental impact report. So with that, I'd like to turn it to Sergio Madera, City Planner.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you, Mayor Sanchez and members of the City Council. My name is Sergio Madera. I'm the City Planner for the City of Oceanside. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the Council and members of the public a broad overview of the exhaustive efforts made to date to deliver an updated general plan that is reflective of community input over the past 5 years. I'll start by saying that this is a project that's long overdue. With the exception of the economic development and energy and climate action elements, which were adopted in 2019, the most recent update to the general plan was with the circulation element, which was adopted in 2012. There are 5 elements that date back to 1974 and 1975, respectively, that have never been updated. This is the city's opportunity to set a new vision for how the city will develop moving forward. As outlined on the slide, state law mandates that the city adopt a long-term general plan. The planning horizon for the project is 2050, meaning it is anticipated to take the better part of 25 years to implement and realize the goals and policies outlined in the draft plan. It establishes a long-range vision for the community and plans for future growth while addressing important community issues such as new growth, housing needs, public services, environmental protection, and economic resiliency. As previously noted, the last update to the general plan occurred in 2019 with the introduction and adoption of 2 new elements. At the time, the city adopted it, and at the same time, the city adopted its first climate action plan. The graphic on the screen depicts the project area, which includes the entirety of the incorporated city, plus a small island of county land known as the Sphere of Influence in the southeasterly area of the city. The current phase of the general plan update started in 2020, just a few weeks before the onset of the COVID shutdown. Known as Phase 2 of the GPU, the project is inclusive of updating the general plan elements, the proposed smart and sustainable corridor specific plan, and an updated climate action plan and a program level CEQA analysis. It is important to note that the portion of the city within the coastal zone will not be subject to all the policies of the GPU, as that area is governed and regulated by the California Coastal Commission certified local coastal plan and land use plan. There are 3 other policy documents staff will be working on upon adoption of the general plan update. These include a Trails Master Plan, an Active Transportation Plan, and the South Moore Hills Community Plan. The first tangible milestone of the GPU effort involved the crafting of a community vision. The community vision was intended to foster public dialogue on the course the city will take over the planning horizon of the GPU. The project team prepared a draft community vision to outline organized themes and guiding principles that reflected community input that was born out of an initial round of community engagement and featured over 50 stakeholder meetings, online surveys, and other outreach activities involving over 1,000 community members. It reflects state and regional planning priorities and the findings of various technical studies that address the local economy, land use patterns, mobility options, community assets, and environmental resources. The vision highlights key challenges, opportunities, and priorities that inform the preparation of the updated general plan elements, as well as the Smart and Sustainable Corridor specific plan. The City Council accepted the community vision at their meeting of October 6, 2021. It should be noted that during the consideration of the community vision, the Council provided staff direction to have policies of the sub-area plan included within future conservation and open space elements. Subsequently, in January of 2022, the City Council provided formal direction to include sub-area plan policies into the general plan and cease further work on the sub-area plan. The second major milestone of the GPU was the preparation of an alternatives report that differentiates levels and distributions of future housing and employment growth through the planning horizon. On August 10th, 2022, the City Council affirmed selection alternative B, which assumed housing growth that aligns with the regional housing needs allocation, results in a higher jobs to housing ratio, and promotes smart growth and multimodal connectivity. Project growth included in alternative B included assumptions that additional growth would include over 17,000 new housing units, over 28,000 new jobs, and an estimated increase in population of close to 47,000 new residents. It is also anticipated that there will be a greater number of multifamily residential units produced over the planning horizon compared to detached single-family homes, and an increase in retail, office, industrial, and hotel uses. let's talk a little bit about community outreach. It is an understatement to say that staff conducted extensive outreach to inform the crafting of the general plan and smart sustainable corridor specific plan. A project website was established that is dedicated to the general plan update. Outreach was conducted and input was gathered via a series of forums, open houses, and workshops. An interested parties list has been maintained with over 1,600 community members, business owners, and other stakeholders, and regular email correspondence was sent to the list advising of upcoming events, availability of draft documents, and online surveys. Online surveys were conducted to elicit feedback and input. Countless stakeholder meetings were held. Office hours were conducted to inform the creation of neighborhood planning area policies. There were the occasional city council general items and discussion items that invited public comment and input, and videos were shown on KOCT, informing the public of the efforts associated with the general plan update.
Could you stop just for a second? Is there an issue with people being able to hear the speaker? Is there some way to fix that? Because can we do that now? Because my concern is people are not being able to hear the speaker. Sorry, Sergio. We want to hear you.
Do you want me to hold on or do you want me to continue?
If you could hold on just
Sure,
for a
no
couple of
problem.
minutes, yes? Okay.
And we do have assisted hearing device that the city provides if anybody requires them. And they're headphones that connect to a hearing device as well.
I understand remotely they're having a hard time hearing because it's very low. Can we fix that too?
If you need a hearing device, please let us know. You can raise your hand and we'll make sure that you get a hearing device so you'll be able to hear clearly the presenters and the public comment. And for those listening on Zoom, we are working on the volume issues and hopefully that will be resolved as well.
Can we continue?
Yeah, they're going to talk to the person
Okay.
outside in the lobby, so.
Thank you very
You
much.
can
My
continue.
apologies.
Of course. It should be noted, in an effort to better engage the city's large Hispanic community, the project team made various presentations at various forums attended by the city's Spanish-speaking community members, offered online surveys in Spanish, provided Spanish translation at workshops and open house events, and posted outreach materials in Spanish at the city's community resource centers, local businesses, and local service providers. The housing element is one of 9 mandated elements of the general plan. The housing element law, first enacted in 1969, mandates that local governments plan to meet the existing and projected housing needs of all economic segments of the community. The law recognizes that in order for the private market to adequately address housing needs, local governments must adopt land use plans and regulatory systems that provide opportunities for and do not unduly constrain housing development. As a result, housing policy in California rests largely upon the effective implementation of local general plans and, in particular, local housing elements. Housing element law also requires the California Department of Housing and Community Development to review local housing elements and to report its written findings with respect to the housing element's conformance with state law. Housing element facilitates the development of a variety of housing types for all income levels to meet the existing and future needs of residents, including the homeless and persons with special needs. It addresses and where appropriate and legally possible, removes governmental constraints to the maintenance, improvement, and development of housing. It maintains and enhance the quality of residential neighborhoods. It promotes equal housing opportunities for all persons. It encourages new housing growth patterns that conform to local, regional, and state policies for sustainable development and energy use. City Council first adopted the sixth cycle housing element on June 16, 2021. After responding to review comments from HCD, the Council readopted a revised housing element on September 3, 2023, which HCD ultimately certified on November 4, 2023. In addition to the recently adopted economic development element and energy and climate action element and housing element, general plan will be comprised of 6 new elements which have been designed to replace 8 existing outdated elements. These new elements are identified on the slide with a table that outlines where each state-mandated topic is addressed. The discussion to follow will explain each topical area the new elements address, along with a high-level summary of comments received during the public review/comment period. As outlined on the slide, public review and comment on the GPU elements, Smart and Sustainable Corridor Specific Plan, Climate Action Plan, and Draft Environmental Impact Report was conducted last summer for a total of 62 days. At the early stages of the public comment period, a community forum was held online and an in-person bilingual forum was held at the Crown Heights Resource Center on June 20th, 2024. Public comment received has informed ongoing revisions to the draft elements and will also inform revisions to the draft environmental impact report, which will be recirculated for public review and comment in late spring, early summer of this year. With that, we'll take a stab at explaining our first element, and then we'll pause for questions that the council may have. The remarkable community element touches on land use, mobility, natural resources, and the city's history, including that of the indigenous community, and complements and expands upon and connects key themes promulgated in other general plan elements. Key topics include character-defining assets, neighborhood identity, character, urban design, scenic views, and tribal resources, and historic preservation. Objectives outlined in the element are intended to strengthen the city's sense of place, preserve and enhance neighborhood character, protect cultural and tribal resources, and promote the cities as a visitor destination. A high-level summary of comments received on the remarkable community element include a comment that the coordination with the city's active transportation coordinator during development review process to ensure complete streets are being addressed, consider trail and bike lane improvements as a network, not individually, and the use of one-way street configuration, angled parking, and other traffic calming measures in certain parts of the city. Should also be noted that the remarkable community element acknowledges Oceanside as a visitor destination and considers how the city can continue to grow the hospitality sector in a manner that protects and enhances quality of life for residents and enhances the city's reputation and brand. Remarkable community goals and policies related to the city's hospitality sector align with the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan prepared by Visit Oceanside in collaboration with the city, with input from residents, business owners, and other stakeholders. At this point, we'll pause for any questions that the council may have.
All right, do we have any questions from the dais at this time? Not discussion, just questions. Do we have any lights here? Okay, Deputy Mayor Joyce.
Thanks, Sergio. The first action on the Remarkable Communities Plan is about objective design and development standards. What are we, I know that we've kind of over time talked about this and whether or not this effort is going to get taken up citywide or if we're going to look at each of the individual areas. Where are we kind of at now on that question?
Certainly. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Joyce, for the question. In this past budget cycle, there was some monies allocated for specific efforts to address objective design standards. We are also working with SANDAG technical assistance program to come up with some objective design standards. Those would most likely be promulgated through the comprehensive update of the zoning ordinance, which would occur after the general plan is adopted. So once we adopt the general plan, there's going to be a need to update the zoning, a wholesale update to the zoning ordinance to be able to implement the goals and policies of the general plan as adopted.
Okay, so timeline-wise, that would be the next thing after.
So, yeah, so depending on when the general plan gets adopted, will dictate when we engage in that effort, and that effort would be expected to take anywhere from 18 months to 2 years.
Okay. And then have we started on the development of the dark sky ordinance or plan? I ask because in the version that we have, the dates are current because this says 24, 25. And so I know that part of that is the fact that we're taking longer to do it. So I'm just curious if that effort has started yet or if we would expect that to move back until the adoption of this.
Yeah, so I would just give you a blanket comment in that, or a blanket response in that any of the implementation outlined in any of the draft elements clearly would be pushed back till after the adoption of the general plan.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
The next element to be discussed is the efficient and compatible land use element. The efficient and compatible land use element, or as we refer to the acronym, the ECLU, replaces the city's land use element, which was last updated in 1986. The ECLU determines the distribution, location, and extent of land available for housing, business, industry, open space, agriculture, natural resources, recreation, education, public facilities and services, and utilities. Key topics include land use designations, building scale and form, accommodation of industrial uses, parking, edge conditions and buffers, and home occupations. Objectives outlined in the element are intended to address infill and redevelopment within the city's major commercial corridors that support a mix of complementary uses, active transportation, and transit service. It addresses new housing in commercial districts, mixed use, both mixed use and standalone, and it confirms that industrial areas are reserved primarily for industrial uses and the provision of flexible commercial land use standards. It also fosters the fostering of incubator space for startup businesses and expansion of biotechnology, research and development, precision manufacturing, healthcare, active lifestyle, and hospitality sectors. A high-level summary of the comments received on the ECLU include to ensure that the general plan update growth projections are consistent with those from SANDAG and housing NHCD, require policy to ensure infrastructure is not expanded into the city's peripheral areas, an addition of emphasis on retaining job-producing land uses, not just housing conversion to improve jobs to employed residents ratio. There was also reference that the reference to the vital and sustainable resource element for requirements related to preservation, restoration, and management of natural open space, plus policies related to edge effects, develop policy regarding protection of mobile home parks as a key part of low-income housing supply, require replacement of such housing when removed for new development, and implement complete streets approach, which makes biking and walking safer and reduces reliance on private automobiles. At this point, I'll pause for any questions that the city council may have.
Any questions? Deputy Mayor Joyce.
So you had a great list of comments that were brought up. How do we know which ones of those are going to be changed or addressed in the final? Are those ones that are being looked at to be integrated? Is that the implication if they're listed in there, or?
Not just because it's listed as a part of the high-level summary of comments received doesn't necessarily mean they're all going to be wholly addressed in revised elements. What we will offer is that at the time the revised elements are ready for public review and circulation, we will offer two versions. One will be a clean formatted version, and the other version will be more of a strikeout underline to see what has been added, what has been removed with respect to addressing comments received.
That's very helpful. Thank you. ECLU 1, the quote is, provide adequate transitions between residential and non-residential, particularly the edges of the SSCP. Can you describe what that would kind of look like?
Perhaps that's a question better reserved for the discussion on the SSCP itself.
Okay.
But presumably there would be development standards that take into effect and improvements in those areas to make sure that there's adequate buffering typically, and that there is, as an example, if you're adjacent to sensitive lands, those things are accounted for. Typically the corridors do run along bodies of water that do require some buffering. So Loma Alta Creek comes to mind, Buena Vista Creek comes to mind. So those are things that need to be addressed when development comes forward.
Is that it for now?
Just 1 second, if that's okay, unless somebody else has a question.
No, I think these are nice questions, but maybe preserved for later.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. The next element to be discussed is the integrated mobility element. The integrated mobility element replaces the city circulation element. In accordance with state general plan guidelines, the IM, as we refer to it, specifies the location, extent, and classification of existing and proposed major roadways, transportation routes, and transportation terminals. The IM seeks to create an integrated mobility network that provides for safe and convenient transitions between different modes of travel. To this end, the IM includes goals and policies that call for complete street improvements, improved access to transit facilities, mobility hub features, and technologies that make it easier to find parking, plan transit trips, and pay fares. The IM promotes reduction in vehicle miles traveled through transportation demand management strategies, expanded active transportation facilities, enhanced transit service, and new flexible fleet options. Key topics covered include roadway classifications, complete streets improvements, transit, microtransit, active transportation facilities, and evacuation routes. Objectives outlined in the element are intended to address the city's efforts to accommodate future growth through infill and redevelopment within already urbanized areas. It prioritizes transportation investments in the city's major commercial corridors, and it aligns with the city's climate mitigation efforts as outlined in the updated climate action. A high-level summary of comments received include an emphasizing developing a more comprehensive active transportation plan, addressing level of service impacts through alternative transportation modes, and improved transportation demand management policies, the removal of the planned RDO Rancho del Oro State Road 78 interchange from the roadway network, and improve hazardous portions of Oceanside Boulevard. As part of the public review and comment period, Caltrans sent City a letter indicating proposed RDO 78, the proposed RDO 78 interchange is not a planned project and would not be funded through Sandag's Regional Transportation Plan. Staff has since removed the interchange from the general plan update and is in the process of having the consultants rerun the applicable technical models to address this change in the city's roadway network. I'll pause here for any questions that the
Okay.
council may have on the
Questions on
integrated
what he just
mobility element.
talked about? Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Were transportation impact fees considered during this portion of the general plan planning process?
At this time, I don't believe that was considered. The city already collects transportation impact fees in the form of a thoroughfare impact fee, which goes to fund identified projects. That would be something that would come subsequent to the adoption of the general plan if city council were to direct us to update the transportation impact fees we'd have to identify improvement projects that don't deal with level of service, whether they're implementation of a more integrated active transportation network, or I can't think of another topic right now, but those are the kinds of things that would come again after the general plan is adopted.
Okay.
We could certainly include a policy at the direction of council to study that, or to directs us to
investigate.
work on a transportation impact fee that deals more with level service impact.
Mr. Burke?
I would just add, Mayor and council members, that we do have an ongoing, pardon me, nexus study for the update of the thoroughfare impact fees and other development impact fees. That will come forward sometime in the next 12
Per
months.
updated law? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions?
The active transportation plan, again, with the timing being all off, just wanted a clarification on, has that already been, that effort already been started by our new coordinator? Or are we
At this
waiting for
time-
the adoption?
Sure. At this time, though, we're going to hit on that later in the presentation. That's one of the deliverables that's kind of part of this project that comes after the adoption. But I can share with the council that transportation engineering recently applied for grants, which council authorized to pursue a more comprehensive active transportation plan. And the initial scope of work that the city entered into with our general plan consultant, it included too small of a fee to prepare as comprehensive of an alternative transportation plan it's become apparent that is required to implement the policies that we're promulgating.
Okay, that was the Safe Streets for All grant. Is that the grant you're referring to?
I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's two different grants
Yes.
that the city is pursuing.
Wasn't too long ago.
I think that came to council maybe in early
Yes.
January.
Okay, thank you.
Next.
The next element to discuss is the vital and sustainable resources element. Known as the VSR, the VSR replaces the city's environmental resource management element, which was prepared in 1975 and never updated. The VSR provides an inventory of Oceanside's natural resources, land, water, ecosystem services, and living resources, and speaks to the benefit these resources provide to the community. Specifically, the VSR addresses water resources, air resources, mineral resources, farmland, and sensitive habitat. VSR considers how impacts to these resources resulting from development and other human activities can be avoided or minimized. As outlined on the slide, key topics include sensitive habitat, farmland, water resources, community facilities, and climate action. Objectives outlined in the element are intended to address the conservation of natural resources, the conservation of open space, protection of air and water quality, and a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. A high-level summary of comments received on the VSR include that we need to make conservation goals consistent with the adopted regional multiple species habitat plan to better articulate the wildlife corridor planning zone and describe the analysis that went into its creation, a call for local funding for potential acquisition of lands containing sensitive habitat for endangered species with strategic location within the wildlife corridor planning zone, and to include all the draft sub-area plan goals. In response to comments, the city intends to complete a comprehensive update to sensitive habitat and conserved lands inventory contingent upon council approval of the proposed 25-26 fiscal year budget. References to clustered housing have also been removed from documents under current consideration. At this point, I'll pause for any questions that the council may have.
Right? Any questions? No lights? Go ahead.
Thank you. The next element to be discussed is the safe and resilient environment element. The SRE, as it's known, replaces the city's safety element, which was prepared in 1975 and never updated. In accordance with the government code, all local jurisdictions must prepare and periodically update the safety element that considers how to reduce the potential short and long-term risk of death, injuries, property damage, and economic and social dislocation resulting from fires, floods, droughts, earthquakes, landslides, climate change, and other hazards. Other relevant safety issues such as airport land use, emergency response, hazardous material spills, and crime reduction may also be addressed in this element. The fundamental objective of the SRE is to ensure that Oceanside is proactive and vigilant in mitigating risks associated with natural hazards, climate change, industrial operations, hazardous materials, evacuation and emergency response, and social instability. To this end, SRE goals and policies address emergency preparedness, response, and recovery. Key topics include addressing natural hazards, human-induced hazards, climate adaptation, terrorism and cyber threats, and crime. The CPTED acronym stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design.
I'll try to remember that.
Objectives outlined in the element are intended to address and understand risks associated with both natural and human-induced hazards, build resiliency against wildfire, flooding, landslides, drought, seismic activity, tsunamis, and contagions, to ensure appropriate and adequate emergency response, manage production, distribution, and use of hazardous materials, and create and secure public spaces. High-level summary of comments received on the SRE include to incorporate all policies and actions outlined in the Oceanside Annex to the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, to expand discussion about potential flood risks at the harbor and downtown and impacts on the city's tourism economy, consider flooding impacts to water quality, public health issues, and biological resources, and consider defensible space impacts, that's fire, on sensitive habitats. With that, I'll pause if any questions.
Questions? No lights? Go ahead.
I think the sixth and last element we're going to discuss tonight is the healthy and livable community element. Known as the HLC, it replaces the city's community facilities element, which was prepared in 1990. While the HLC is an optional general plan element, it addresses the state-mandated topics of open space and noise. Fundamental objective of the HLC is to ensure that the city facilities, housing, employment, and enrichment opportunities for all segments of the community, ensuring that all community members have what they need to thrive and live their healthiest and most productive lives. The HLC focuses on the organized and fair distribution of public resources. This element also addresses the local decision-making process, outlining ways to render this process more data-driven, transparent, and inclusive. The HLC responds to the community's desire to have ready access to public facilities, as well as the community's interest in additional and augmented public services. Like examples could be more libraries, more park amenities, an expanded trails network, community broadband, more community gardens, and more support for urban agriculture, more harbor amenities, more resources to address homelessness, etc. In keeping with all the new and updated general plan elements, the HLC addresses environmental justice and social equity issues, particularly as they relate to access to community facilities and services, participation in the local decision-making process, and exposure to excessive noise. Key topics include community health, noise, civic engagement, recreational opportunities, community facilities and services, and utilities and infrastructure. A summary of public comments received includes the prioritization of park resources, shortfalls in areas where there's an identified gap, to include specific development guidelines that address non-traditional public spaces like public plazas, provision of regional trail connection concepts, minimizing natural habitat trail designs, and providing wayfinding signage throughout the city. With that, I'll pause with any questions that the council may have.
Any questions? All right, was that the last element?
Just a couple more slides.
Okay.
That
No,
was the
that's
last
fine.
element.
I was
Yep.
just wondering.
Yep. As we discussed earlier, the active transportation plan and trails master plan are documents that will come subsequent to adoption of the general plan. They promote improvements that connect pedestrians and bicyclists to commercial districts and community facilities. The ATP consolidates the city's pedestrian and bicycle master plans and identify priority projects that close gaps in the city's active transportation network. The Trails Master Plan focuses on dedicated trail connections between neighborhoods and nearby recreational facilities. And the last deliverable we have to discuss tonight is the Sophomore Hills Community Plan. Sophomore Hills Community Plan effort was born out of the council's review of the North River Farms project. At the time that the project was considered, council gave direction to staff that no more projects in Sophomore Hills would be considered until a community plan developed by the city and with input from the community was adopted. A community plan is an extension of the general plan that focuses on issues important to a particular area of the city. Focus of efforts to date include policies and planning guidance on supporting the continued viability of farming through expanded agritourism opportunities. During consideration of the alternatives previously described, it became apparent that differing community opinions on the future of the Sophomore Hills made it difficult to move ahead with the balance of the general plan update. It was decided in April of 2022 to defer continued work on the Sophomore Hills Community Plan until such time that the general plan, Smart and Sustainable Corridor Specific Plan, and Climate Action Plan were adopted, and then staff would resume work on the community plan. Staff has not worked on the Sophomore Hills Community Plan since that time. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm going to hand it over to Rob Demerhowski, a principal planner in our office, to talk to you about the Smart and Sustainable Corridor Specific Plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and
Mr.
council members.
Demerhowski?
I'm Rob Demerhowski, Principal Planner with the Planning Division. I'm here to present the Smart and Sustainable Corridor Specific Plan component of the General Plan Update. A specific plan is a tool used to implement policies of the general plan in a defined area. It is a regulatory document that acts as its own zoning ordinance and bridges the gap between general plan policies and zoning by establishing land use regulations and implementation measures to guide future development and public improvements within the planning area. The corridor specific plan will outline strategies that focus on revitalization of the city's three major east-west commercial corridors of Mission Avenue, Oceanside Boulevard, and Vista Way. The specific plan seeks to channel future housing and employment growth within these corridors through infill and redevelopment of both vacant and infill sites. The specific plan will emphasize streetscape and public realm improvements that enhance visual quality, improve pedestrian safety and comfort, expand mobility options for pedestrians, cyclists, and provide connections to the city's active transportation. And a focus on complete street roadway improvements that provide a safe means of travel for all modes of transportation, including pedestrians, cyclists, transit users, and vehicles. The specific plan area focuses on the corridors. Each one has distinct features and opportunities. Mission Avenue is characterized by commercial development with several large shopping centers, various housing throughout the corridors, and the Mission San Luis Rey Historic District. It is also adjacent to Highway 76 and in proximity to the San Luis Rey River and the trail. The corridor is served by high-frequency bus service. This corridor is envisioned as having opportunities for mixed-use development, expanded retail and restaurants, and also expanded pedestrian and bicycle connections. The Oceanside Boulevard corridor is served by the Sprinter rail service and is considered a smart growth opportunity area with options for transit-oriented development. The corridor includes several industrial and commercial developments, as well as El Corazon Park. This area, as a smart growth opportunity area, Oceanside Boulevard has opportunities to support higher density, walkable mixed-use development near transit hubs. There are also opportunities to restore and revitalize Loma Alta Creek and increase employment densities in existing commercial and industrial developments throughout the corridor. And Vista Way has the highest concentration of regional commercial uses in the city based on its access to Highway 78. Notable uses include commercial and medical office, such as Tri-City Medical Center. And this corridor has opportunities to expand retail, medical office, and residential uses through more efficient land use and opportunities for mixed-use development as appropriate with commercial development that preserves and expands the existing commercial uses in the area. Consistent with the general plan, the specific plan includes various land use designations that function as zoning districts. The medium density and high density residential districts will allow a density range between 30 to 40 dwelling units per acre and will allow a variety of housing options from single family detached, attached, low rise, mid-rise development, as well as supportive residential facilities, and the high-density residential would focus on low to mid-rise multifamily housing. Policy focuses on a diversity of housing options at various affordability levels, as well as special needs housing, such as senior housing. The mixed-use designation, which is identified in purple on the map, is the signature land use designation in the corridors and will allow both horizontal and vertical mixed use, focused on introducing a mix of uses, walkable environments, public spaces, and resident amenities. The center mixed use will allow for more intensive development at strategic nodal locations with a focus on transit accessible areas. The commercial districts will allow for flexible commercial spaces that support a variety of uses within the corridor, the residents and surrounding neighborhoods. And industrial districts will allow a continuation of existing uses with a focus of new uses that can be located near residential uses that increase employment density, focus on research development, high-value products, and local manufacturing capacity. Urban design is a fundamental component of the specific plan that will establish direction for the overall design of each corridor for both private development and capital improvements. Private property owners and developers shall be responsible for pedestrian-oriented public realm improvements as part of development proposals. Streetscapes, the specific plan envisions pedestrian-oriented streetscapes with wider sidewalks, landscape parkways, shade trees, street furnishings, and distinctive paving at crosswalks. The goal is to make streetscapes both safer and for pedestrians and visually appealing. The plan calls for new development to incorporate public open space such as pocket parks, plazas, and paseos that provide not only open space within new developments, but connectivity to surrounding uses. Objective design standards for buildings and site planning will encourage pedestrian-friendly environments, quality architectural design, and a goal to orient parking away from the street. And there would also be wayfinding signage and public art that would be encouraged for new development and transit facilities to provide navigational access and enhance the experience for pedestrian, cyclists, vehicles, and transit users utilizing the corridors. With the specific plan's objective to establish a significant amount of housing along the corridors, it is important to create pedestrian-oriented environments that are supported by roadway enhancements, complete street improvements, and improved transit access and project design elements. All three corridors are classified as arterial or secondary collector alignments with between 4 to 6 lanes. The mobility section includes recommendations for specific sections of these corridors to include features such as continuous sidewalk, parkways, landscape medians, and separated bikeways where feasible based on road width. The specific plan will focus on pedestrian movement with recommended features such as wider sidewalks, shade trees, parkway separation from travel lanes, and high visibility crosswalks with advanced stop bars. Pedestrian priority zones, which are identified as areas with the highest pedestrian activity, would also include crossing enhancements such as curb extensions where feasible. Implementation of the specific plan will require action on behalf of the city and developers to install the necessary infrastructure and roadway improvements. The specific plan establishes a tiered approach for development review. Developers that comply with all objective development standards of the specific plan would qualify for a streamlined development review process. Deviation from the objective development standards, such as incorporating density bonus waivers, would require a discretionary review to be considered by the Planning Commission. Developers would be conditioned to install all street frontage improvements, including parkways and street trees, sidewalk, and features such as distinctive paving at crosswalks, bike racks, bus shelters, as well as stormwater facilities. Street improvements, bike lanes, and center medians with street trees would be the responsibility of the city. To fund capital improvements, the specific plan identifies a variety of funding sources such as special assessment districts, development impact fees, capital improvement program, tax increment financing districts, and external grants and loans. Extensive public outreach was conducted for the specific plan in conjunction with the general plan update. Comments were received on various components of the plan with the following key themes. Comments focused on improving access to Sprinter stations and public transportation to encourage ridership. A number of comments addressed the need for safe sidewalks and crosswalks in all of the corridors, a need to construct bicycle lanes and paths as a complete network throughout the city, and the completion of the Inland Rail Trail. And comments also were received regarding the need for more affordable housing. This concludes my presentation, and we'll turn it over to Justin Gamble for the climate action plan.
I do have one question. How can we design this? How can we design to require the open space that you have, like the pocket parks and, like if we're dealing with a density bonus project, and there are all these waivers, would that be one of the waivers that they would be able to take is we don't want to have to do any pocket parks or open spaces to balance the high-density development?
Mayor Sanchez,
Yes.
There is a possibility that density bonus could request waivers to, under state law, to be able to build the project at the request level of affordability. The plan is designed to encourage developments to include these features as standard objective features without need to remove or reduce those based on the ability to have the higher densities in these corridors, the nodal areas, the commercial center mixed use allows higher densities, and there's also a base mixed use density of 40 dwelling units per acre. And the streamlined review without is really the focus on even with the density bonus project, if they meet all the objective standards, they could pursue the streamlined ministerial review and not have to do a project-specific CEQA document. They would rely on the EIR that was prepared for the general plan update, and in return, there would be no public hearing or a need to go through it would lessen the review process and allow them to go to the permit directly to building permits.
Ms. Borrego, is that something you wanted to address?
Yeah, and just to reemphasize what Mr. Dimowski just said, and that is an important element, and just to reemphasize the point that he just made, that the way that we're crafting this specific plan or corridors plan is to incentivize people to meet code rather than asking for waivers, that if they do meet code and are able to design according to the standards in the corridor plan, then it would afford them a by right project, which we hope is incentive enough to get people to want to comply with the code. If they start asking for waivers, then they would go through a discretionary process, which, takes a lot more time and money on their behalf. So hopefully they take us up on the offer to design according to code.
Did we hear from the developer community in terms of if this is something that they would like to see to be able to take advantage of a streamlined process?
Mayor Sanchez, I'm not 100% sure that there was specific feedback on this aspect of the corridors plan.
Right.
It's certainly something that we can seek at this point, but in our general dealings with developers, they're always looking for the path of least resistance, and sometimes that is through full compliance. And so if you're talking about saving a year or 18 months with the by right process as opposed to going through a discretionary review, that's a big incentive. So that 18 months would cost them a lot of money otherwise.
All right, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
Along the same lines, if we are thinking that we want these to be walkable, full access communities along the corridors, I assume that we're going to need them to not waive setbacks from the road so that we can have those complete streets built out. And so I guess that was my same question. If they use density bonus and choose to build more units because they can build up out of the setback area, couldn't that challenge our ability to do the complete streets if we're kind of counting on them to comply? I think it'd just be yes. I guess it sounds like it's a yes.
Deputy Mayor, there would be the possibility, each site, the corridor has many unique sites and there's different topography and conditions. The development standards are set up to allow reduced setbacks along street frontage, really encouraging buildings to be closer to the street. And the focus is having those public realm improvements where there would be a building setback. And we have a detail I can also provide to demonstrate. There's a building setback and then there's a public realm improvement area, which would include the sidewalk, parkway, and the standard improvements that would typically occur with the development. Whether or not they request a reduced setback, there would still be the ability to provide those features with the project.
Okay. And does this plan for housing in our city have incrementality? Does it have incremental development outside of this corridor, or is this really, are we planning on focusing all the new housing into these few spaces?
Deputy Mayor, so when we went over some of the projections that we talked about and the growth that the city is going to experience between now and 2050, a portion of that is in the corridors. So maybe like 2/3 of the growth is projected to occur in the corridors. The other growth is projected to occur in other areas of the city via other mechanisms, whether they're ADUs or SB9 or just other housing type of projects. So about 1/3 of the projected growth is anticipated to occur outside of the corridors.
And just for clarity, are the ADUs counted in those counts as they go on? So as we've been seeing ADUs be more prolific in our city, are they being counted in these?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, they are. And next week you'll receive the annual progress report that includes and has a discussion on how successful ADUs have been in the city. We're permitting and filing about 100 ADUs a year during this housing cycle. So they do count.
Thank you. Are there any pieces of this plan that make ADU building more accessible to low-income neighborhoods or anything like that? Is that part of any of our housing development work with this plan?
So the state has relaxed ADU laws so much that it really has incentivized their production regardless of community. So there's no specific policies that address ADUs in lower income neighborhoods. I think those are things that the state has fairly well addressed, and we have evidence through the number of ADUs that are being produced each year.
In that update that we're going to get, is it going to show us where the ADUs have been? Because that's kind of would touch on my question. Like, is that really a wealth builder that's happening throughout the city, or is it happening in places that already have the most wealth? So that is my.
It's a fair question, but one that we won't be able to answer. We don't track ADUs, and with the APR, the APR is a formatted document that's prepared by Housing and Community Development. They give it to the cities. We literally only could fill in certain cells, and it spits out numbers in other cells. And so there's not really, there's an ability to map it, but that would take time resources to show where those growths are occurring. Generally, they're occurring in single-family neighborhoods, and they're occurring in multifamily developments. There's a host of multifamily developments that have converted non-habitable space to ADUs over the last 5 or 6 years.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now on the Climate Action Plan. Justin Gamble. Thank you very much. Mr. Demahowski. All right, Councilmember Figueroa.
Just on the ADU subject, 100 ADUs, that's awesome. So that's great to hear and excited to hear about that report. In regards to the location, I think that's an important component also for us to consider the infrastructure of the city. So if they're concentrated in specific places, what does that infrastructure look on the city's end to address the ADUs being built if it's concentrated in specific communities? So I think that would be good for us to know as well.
We'll try to put some of that information together ahead of next week's meeting.
This is actually, I think we're almost off topic here. But yes, that would be for next week. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Justin Gamble. I'm the City's Sustainability Program Administrator with the Development Services Department. And I'll be providing a summary of the draft Climate Action Plan update that was integrated with Phase 2 of the General Plan update. I'll provide information on the purpose of the Climate Action Plan, or we've referenced it as the CAP, our achievements and sustainability measures since the adoption of the prior 2019 CAP, and its relationship with the General Plan update. I'll give an overview of the plan structure, including the city's greenhouse gas emissions projections, mitigating measures, and a summary of the public comments that we received on the CAP update. The Climate Action Plan is a living document that guides sustainability initiatives with the primary goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions from various sectors of the economy that are considered a significant driver of global climate change. The plan is structured to align the city's actions with statewide climate goals while proposing local measures that supplement general plan policies that build local resilience, complement economic growth, and streamline future development. The first Climate Action Plan was adopted by the City Council in 2019 through Phase 1 of the General Plan update as a component of the energy and climate action element. This update is required to align our climate goals with new statewide legislation and to account for the progress we've made and to propose new policies that will mitigate future emissions that are associated with the city's growth guided by the General Plan. The city has made notable achievements in climate initiatives since the adoption of the 2019 CAP. Examples include zoning ordinance that require on-site renewable energy and electric vehicle charging for new development. We've expanded regulatory programs related to organics recycling. We've increased local water supply, and we've increased the share of renewable energy delivered to the city through Clean Energy Alliance and more recently the NG Energy Services contract. The CAP update is corresponding with Phase 2 of the General Plan update as the technical foundation for greenhouse gas emissions analysis that are in the draft environmental impact report. CEQA requires the city to analyze cumulative emissions from projects and identify mitigation measures as necessary. The goals and the measures that are proposed in the CAP update address these future emissions resulting from the city's growth guided under policies presented in the General Plan elements. On a practical level, the CAP incorporates specific policies that achieve greenhouse gas reductions. This is the case with the transportation measures that reference the integrated mobility element and the corridor-specific plan that Rob just presented on. The CAP proposes new policies that will eventually require certain development projects to be built with low carbon and sustainable features. The CAP consistency checklist is an optional tool that allows projects to qualify for streamlining under CEQA in order to not complete the technical greenhouse gas emissions by including sustainability features that are implemented through the CAP. The city's existing CAP consistency checklist is being updated as part of this effort and will be circulated following adoption of the CAP update. Similar to the 2019 Climate Action Plan, the starting point for this update was building a comprehensive greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the city's community. This exercise is required to establish baseline conditions, forecast future emissions, set revised greenhouse gas reduction goals, and develop actions to achieve them. The inventory is based on 2018 transportation data that was provided by SANDAG and then calibrated with energy and land use data from Oceanside. Unfortunately, reliable transportation data beyond 2018 were not readily available during the CAP update due to skewed vehicle use data resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. The city's community-wide greenhouse gas emissions generally falls into 6 primary sectors of the economy, and we measure the emissions in metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. So as shown in this pie chart, on-road transportation and building energy use, which incorporates both electricity and natural gas, make up the vast majority of the city's baseline emissions. Additional emissions are attributed to solid waste management, water and wastewater treatment, and off-road equipment. The next step was forecasting how greenhouse gas emissions will change over time to account for population growth and trends in energy use and transportation. Our future emissions are assumed to generally scale with reductions in statewide emissions due to legislative drivers and technological improvements. This figure illustrates the city's emissions inventory, beginning with the 2018 baseline year on the left, and the projected reductions by emission sectors noted by the different colors. The CAP update sets emissions goals based on statewide legislative targets, as well as the general plan update timeline. The goals are community-wide greenhouse gas reductions that are relative to the 2018 baseline. These goals include a reduction of community-wide emissions by 27% by 2030, a reduction of 90% by 2045, and then maintaining that 90% reduction through 2050, which is the general plan's horizon date. The goals take into account the local measures proposed in the CAP update, but also the forecasted reductions expected from state legislation related to fuel efficiency standards, electric vehicle sale requirements, and renewable energy procurement by regulated utilities. To achieve the city's greenhouse gas reduction goals and support policies in the general plan elements, the CAP update identifies 17 measures that fall into 6 focus sectors. Each measure is supported by one or more implementing actions with a corresponding emission reduction value that's assigned to it. The intent of the measures are to support the community in transitioning to a less carbon-intensive future by expanding access to renewable energy and an overall reduction in the community's collective carbon footprint. The measures take credit for existing programs and also ambitious policies that are to be developed and funded in the future. Based on our baseline emissions, the energy and transportation sectors will require the greatest level of effort to achieve our goals. The CAP also includes a framework for establishing accountability to implement the measures across the city's government, including timeframes for progress reporting. So now I'll briefly go over some of the measures that are proposed in the CAP update, arranged by focus sector. Examples of the proposed measures in the energy sector include future building codes or zoning ordinances that would promote electrical upgrades in existing buildings, policies to incentivize additional solar on existing buildings, and encouraging customers to opt up to 100% renewable energy service through the Clean Energy Alliance. Proposed transportation sector measures include encouraging growth along transit corridors, calling on policies in the corridor-specific plan, expanding EV charging infrastructure, and also expanding micro-transit opportunities, as well as adding bike lane mileage. Proposed measures in the solid waste sector include continuing the implementation of state requirements for organics recycling under SB 1383, increasing local landfill diversion rates beyond the state's goals, and proposed water sector measures include continuing to reduce the city's per capita water consumption, increasing local water supply through projects like Pure Water Oceanside, and expanding water-efficient retrofit requirements in new development. The carbon sequestration sector includes tactics that rely on natural processes that uptake carbon dioxide. So these aren't sectors that emit emissions. These are tactics that can sequester or remove carbon from the atmosphere. These measures include expanding the urban tree canopy on private and public land with tree planting, conserving open space and working lands with a focus on regenerative farming, and promoting green streets policies that increase shade and stormwater capture in the urban environment. There are also measures proposed to help develop the city's green economy sector, such as encouraging workforce development in sustainable energy and materials industries, and supporting local goods and services to encourage sustainable consumption. The CAP update includes implementation timelines and a framework for documenting progress towards the greenhouse gas reduction goals. The CAP is a living document and is expected to be updated at least every 5 years. Success will require a coordinated effort between departments with measures to be considered during the city's routine budget development process. Following adoption, the CAP calls for routine progress reporting and assessments of the city's greenhouse gas emissions. These commitments include biennial updates to the emissions inventory that are consistent with regional approaches for comparability, annual progress reporting to the City Council and relevant commissions with a goal of public engagement and transparency, and the use of key performance indicators as a measuring tool to adapt the emission reduction measures if necessary. Public outreach for the CAP update was aligned with the efforts previously summarized for the general plan update elements. A community survey was conducted in December of 2024 to gauge awareness of climate change in Oceanside and understand community sentiment and the importance of any local action. Outreach also included ad hoc conversations with activist organizations in the General Plan Update Community Forum event in June of last year. The written comment period for the draft CAP aligned with the general plan deliverables and the associated draft EIR. This included a total of 62 days of public comment with nearly 50 pages of written comments received on the draft CAP. Through the draft general plan elements and the draft EIR circulation, the city received written public comments on a range of issues and actions that were presented in the climate action plan. While the comments were often highly specific to both existing climate policies and proposed actions in the CAP update, some comments did fall into general categories that are highlighted here. These included the need for a comprehensive cost analysis to understand the budget and resources required to administer the greenhouse gas reduction measures. And I will note that this is an effort that staff is currently underway with to formulate a cost study, and we hope to expect results by mid-2025 prior to the adoption hearing. There were concerns with the funding mechanisms that may be required to launch and administer the most ambitious measures, such as building energy retrofits. There was a need to update the city's current consistency checklist to streamline qualifying development projects, and I previously noted in the presentation that this is also an effort that staff are working on. There were concerns with the city's control over the rate and scope of building electrification in the private sector, and there were requests to strengthen existing building and zoning ordinances for energy efficiency retrofits, including the city's existing transportation demand management. There's also comments on the need to coordinate with NCTD to expand the availability of local transit in connection with local transit stations, expansion of the urban forest by planting more trees on city and private properties, and the preservation of Oceanside's remaining agriculture. In accordance with CEQA, a draft environmental impact report was prepared for phase 2 of the general plan update. The document also serves as the EIR for the corridor-specific plan and the climate action plan update. The EIR provides a detailed analysis of potential environmental effects related to the draft elements and informs policies to mitigate potentially adverse effects. In compliance with state law, a public draft of the EIR was released for review in summer 2024, along with the draft general plan update elements, the corridors plan, and the CAP update. The review period was twice extended in response to public requests for a total of 62 days of public review. The draft EIR will be updated to reflect significant changes to the elements in response to the public comments. These revisions will require a recirculation of the EIR for another 45-day public review and comment period expected later this year. So in summary, staff's recommendation is that the City Council receive a comprehensive report on the city's general plan update and CAP efforts to date, receive public comments, and provide direction to staff in the general plan update and climate action plan for future City Council consideration and adoption. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you very much. How many, are there 36 requests to speak? 37,
at the
okay.
moment.
So you indicated that there might have been some folks who had,
On off-agenda comments, we have
Signed up.
13. So there might be some people that signed up for both accidentally, meaning.
okay.
But for this item, we have 37.
Okay, how many folks wish to speak, just raise your hand, on items not on the agenda, not on this topic?
I
So
see
maybe,
1, 2,
maybe 4 or 5?
yeah. And I've got Linda over there and Jimmy, and yeah, it's about 4 or 5.
Okay. All right, so probably maybe 40 people altogether on this item?
Including off-agenda?
Including the folks who said that there were 13, you said?
On off-agenda.
Yeah.
But based on those that have raised their hand, it looks like there's 4 or 5 for the off-agenda, which is the second one after this item.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a workshop, and we obviously want to hear from you. I'm going to ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes, but I'm going to give you some time to wrap up your comments. This is a very, very critical, these are very, very critical documents. This is something that we're, basically doing once in a lifetime kind of a thing, is updating our general plan. This is our future, our city's future. This is our community's future, our family's future. So I get that you want to be heard. And so I want to give you that time and space. If you have, say, a couple of people saying the same thing, you can incorporate that person's comments and say, you know, I agree with that person's comments, but I want to make sure you understand there are several of us that feel that way, kind of a thing, all right? So let's go ahead and get started with a list.
All right. Our first speaker is Dennis Martinick, to be followed by Aaron Morin. And we do have 2 podiums, so as you see your name appear on the screen, start making your way down to the next available podium. They both are the same. There's nothing special about each one. And as you speak, make sure that you bring the microphone close to your mouth so those that are watching on KOCT and Zoom could hear you, as well as us here in the chambers.
So after Dennis is Aaron Morin.
Correct.
Yeah, Dennis Martinick, 45-year resident of Oceanside, live in the South Morro Hills area. Retired professor of business economics and urban planning. I wanted to reflect on the community vision summary that's given in the plan or in the staff report for today, and it provides a good framework for starting this process out. It says the City of Oceanside will accommodate growth and change in a manner that supports a sustainable and equitable future, to limit further urban sprawl, preserve natural resources, conserve farmland, support active transportation, and enhance access to transit. The city will encourage infill and redevelopment in already urbanized areas. At the same time, the city will protect the integrity of single-family neighborhoods. This is smart growth. It should be supported, and few people are going to find fault with this approach and with these goals. The vision encourages development in areas with existing roads, sewers, and other infrastructure. It is economically and environmentally efficient. The Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan is smart growth and should be supported. Sprawl development like that previously proposed for South Morro Hills in the South Morro Hills Community Plan is opposite of smart growth. It's sprawl development. It conflicts with the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan, the Economic Development Plan, and the Climate Action Plan. Clustered housing development would eliminate farming in Oceanside. It would require costly sewers, roads, and safety services. It would increase traffic congestion, greenhouse gas emissions, and impact evacuation routes. It's good to see that clustered housing has been eliminated from future plans for South Morro Hills. In the past 4 years, Oceanside residents have made it clear that they want to preserve agriculture in Oceanside. The way to do this is to permanently eliminate clustered housing, keeping the 2.5 acre minimum zoning that's already in Oceanside's general plan, permit only land uses that do not require huge investment in infrastructure, and save additional expense of a new plan for South Morro Hills and concentrate on agritourism, moving forward with implementation of the already completed Oceanside Strategic Agritourism Plan and implementing an agritourism overlay zone would be a good start.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinick. Aaron Morin, followed by Penny Russell, followed by Barbara Collins.
Hi, my name is Erin Morin. I live at 1241 Chambord Court, Oceanside, California. Also, I am an avocado grower out in South Morro Hills. I agree with what Dennis is saying. I agree with him. And here's another issue that rural areas are getting to have a problem with is fire insurance. These companies, after the LA fire, you're going to see it even being more difficult to be getting insurance through the fire zones. And that's another big issue. And the other issue is that I'm worried about North River Farms trying to get housing insurance. I don't know I haven't looked at the map if I wish the chief was here to see if Morro Hills is in a fire area zone or the red zone. because it's going to be twice as hard just to get that insurance. We were dropped once. Our farm was dropped from insurance, and we had to reapply, and trying to get our insurance back. It's going to get harder to get insurance. So just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Penny Russell, followed by Barbara Collins, followed by Jolene Smith.
Honorable Mayor and Council and staff, after reading the current proposed general plan, I'm concerned that the manufactured home community of affordable housing has not really been represented. Originally, I brought this up at some of the first public meetings that were held, and the manufactured home community is one of the, if not the primary community serving seniors and people on fixed incomes, and the growing population of acutely low and, of course, extremely low, very low, and low income aspects of the affordable housing element in the existence within Oceanside. So I would ask that the city include in the general plan an adoption of a policy that preserves and protects the existing stock of affordable housing currently in place. And I'd like to see that within the general plan, some of that type of protection and acknowledgement. I would also ask the city to include in the general plan that there would be some protections for any type of conversions in the mobile home parks. So we would want to, that would prohibit the conversion or closure of a mobile home park if it will result in the, or contribute to a shortage of affordable housing. The couple of other things I wanted to bring up is that as extremely low-income residents living in the manufactured home community, in the event of a natural disaster such as flooding, if we're affected, it would be catastrophic if we had nowhere to go. And so I would like to see something in the policy that also has some contingencies on a moratorium for any parks being converted while dealing with any of these types of natural disasters. The other aspect is, one thing I noticed in the general plan after reading through all the 650 odd some pages, is that there really wasn't, I didn't think, a good plan for transportation for seniors and disabled people. I know we have some volunteer positions, but there's like weeks and months out before people can even get all of that. And I'd like to see some incorporation of transportation within the general plan for seniors and the disabled. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Collins, followed by Jolene Smith, followed by Shelley Parker.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Councilman members. I'm here on behalf of the Sierra Club. I am an Oceanside resident, and I'm here because we're very pleased to support the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan. We believe smart growth is climate friendly and it will reduce GHGs and VMT. It also saves the city's limited resources and addresses our housing affordability crisis in this city, because we're going to see more housing built toward workforce housing or for the workforce and lower income families. We do have concerns about the safety of bicyclists and pedestrians in these corridors. And we recommend that the city adopt Vision Zero or an equivalent safe streets plan. Keeping pedestrians and bicyclists safe needs to be a priority in our traffic planning, not just an afterthought. When the city surveyed residents during this whole process, the majority of residents also supported smart growth and the preservation of our open spaces. It's crucial for the city to provide the resources that we're going to need to implement this smart growth plan. Don't let it just sit there like we've seen other plans, including the Climate Action Plan when it was originally adopted. Failing to do a good job with this, it will create a cascading effect of bad, negative consequences. And it will negatively affect the quality of life in Oceanside. And we have heard some discussion about the South Morrow Hills plan being removed last summer from the GPU. And the city said at the time they were reserving that to come back to. And I'm also here tonight to say that we continue to strongly oppose the proposed zoning changes that would allow clustered housing on our farmland. The South Morrow Hills plan would also undermine smart growth and the development of workforce and low-income housing, because we know that will not be built in South Morrow Hill if we do clustered housing. Also, the wildfire danger is high, and the evacuation roads are inadequate, and households that are moved into that area will be deeply exposed financially.
Thank you.
Because of the homeowners insurance crisis, which will only grow. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jolene Smith, followed by Shelley Parker, followed by Lou Niles.
Good evening, everyone. As a member of the Oceanside Sierra Club and Climate Action Team, I'm advocating for the preservation and expansion of agriculture in Oceanside. As the climate crisis worsens, we cannot continue to rely on food coming from far away. We need to make Oceanside a climate-resilient city, which includes having access to locally grown food. The current draft cap proposes to eliminate agricultural easements, which previously had been included in the 2019 cap. Ag easements are a way to pay farmers to keep their land at agricultural use instead of developing it. The funding for this program could come from state grants and other regional funding sources. Our community vision includes preserving the agriculture that is already in Oceanside and eventually expanding it to include more urban farms and community gardens. But for now, we ask you to please keep agricultural easements in the cap to help save our farmland and help make Oceanside a climate-resilient city. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley Parker, followed by Lou Niles, followed by Patricia Langen.
Good evening, Shelley Parker, Rancho San Luis Rey. First, I'd like to echo Penny Russell's comments about mobile home parks. Eloquent and to the point. I would also like to remind the council that since these are privately owned parks, and for the vast majority of them, they are not being improved. Most of the parks are 50-plus years old. Their infrastructure is falling apart, and the main goal of the millionaire, billionaire owners is to eke out every dime that they can out of us and not do any improvements. And that is a bad thing, because if we're talking about a plan for the next 30 years, our infrastructure is going to be collapsing in those parks, and there is no requirement to actually incentivize them to maintain the parks where we're living in. The fire department did a great job at Trico taking care of the fire that was there. Maintenance must be provided. There are parks that do not have fire prevention systems. We are depending on the city to help us to remain in place. I would also like to request that the city consider building or starting a new mobile home park and allow the residents that move in to have a resident-owned, mutual, nonprofit park with the city's support so that we can have a new park, not a 50, 60, 70-year-old park, but a new park where there's actual good lighting and current standards where people can live safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou Niles, followed by Patricia Langen, followed by Ellen Bartlett.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff. I'm happy to see that the cap is moving forward after delays, but I would urge that the council review the idea to reduce codes and standards. It's building codes and standards are an important item that should be actually raised to benefit the occupants of those buildings and impact the global carbon emissions. Buildings represent 39% of global carbon emissions. 49% of that is from embodied carbon, which is the construction and materials of those buildings, and 51% of the operations and maintenance of those buildings. So I would urge that the city actually raise standards and focus on city policies that could improve the operations and maintenance of those buildings. This is a time where, with this massive growth in our city, that we really need to be paying attention to this. The cost there, as opposed to, although great ideas, electrification and trees, is passed on to the developer and the builder, so that would allow this impact to happen faster. We spend 90% of our lives indoors, in homes and offices and our work environments and businesses that we patronize, and it's really would be an outsized impact to concentrate on that for a quicker impact and to impact the people that are in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Langen, followed by Ellen Bartlett, followed by Candy Johnson.
Patricia Langen, Vice President and Conservation Chair for Buena Vista Audubon Society. Good evening, and thank you for considering my comments. We are asking, as we did in the comments letter for the GPU and draft environmental impact report, for the City of Oceanside to incorporate bird-friendly building design standards into the general plan to update. These are part of the California Green Building Standards Codes, which include light pollution reduction, bird-friendly glazing on windows, and building design guidelines. So why is it important? Every year, up to 1 billion birds are fatally collide with glass in the United States. Recent research has found that bird populations in North America have declined by more than 3 billion birds over the last 50 years. And San Diego County is part of the Pacific Flyway, which is one of the major migration routes in North America for birds. Over 100,000 birds migrate on a given day throughout San Diego County in spring and in fall. Collision deaths occur at low-rise buildings, 1 to 4 stories in urban and rural residences, and with only about 1% happening in high-rise buildings. Birds just don't see the clear glass. They don't get those context clues. And so some of these low-cost glass treatments can also simultaneously reduce energy costs too, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So birds provide environmental ecological services, including pest control and plant pollination. And California has already created these standards, and by adopting them, many collisions can be averted. So these bird-friendly building design standards were included in the Olive Park Apartments draft environmental impact report. Thank you. And we ask that you also include it in the general plan update. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Bartlett, followed by Candy Johnson and Carolyn Kramer.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. My name is Ellen Bartlett, and I am a volunteer with the Oceanside Sierra Club CAP team, and I will be speaking about the city's TDM ordinance. If you look at Oceanside's greenhouse gas emissions by source, transportation makes up the largest piece of that pie. In fact, the transportation sector in our city has actually increased from 48% to more recently, the 51%. But our current TDM ordinance only covers very large commercial projects. As a result, only a handful of projects have fallen under the ordinance in the past 6 years. The current TDM ordinance only covers employees on site. It does not cover truck trips, visitor trips, or school transport. A comprehensive TDM ordinance should address all types of trips, including drop-off, pick-up at schools, which occur 5 days a week, twice a day. We have all witnessed traffic congestion around our city schools. Oceanside needs a cohesive TDM ordinance which is monitored and enforced and addresses all transportation modes, not one focused on cars. There is no funding for alternative transportation projects that generate trips. Transportation impact fees are needed to cover the other modes. This is particularly critical in smart growth corridors. We must focus on public transport improvements and safe passage for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. I would like to invite all of you and anybody here to walk with me from El Camino Real Sprinter Station up the hill and east across El Camino Real. This will give you a greater understanding of the problems we face to leave our cars behind, even within a smart growth area, which is within a half a mile of wherever we would want to go. There's a large church there, and you can't get across. You have to go up the hill and all the way around to get there. So I would like to invite you to walk with me, starting at the train station. Do I have anybody that would like to go? Well, they're all here. Nobody?
Thank you very much. Candy Johnson, followed by Carolyn Kramer, followed by Roger Davenport.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Candy Johnson. I live in Fire Mountain. Fire Mountain is only 2.4 miles, and we have over 25% of the population of Oceanside living in our little community. We are sandwiched between two major corridors, Oceanside Boulevard and Vista Way. We also have a station there, and they're building a huge Ocean Creek apartment complex, multi-use, whatever. I was the appellant. Anyways, I just want to suggest that because of the emissions and the noise from the traffic that's cutting through our neighborhood, we as residents have a hard time getting in and out of our neighborhood. Everybody else in the world is using it now ever since the 78 was closed for all those months. The population of the traffic has probably doubled. And nobody is monitoring any of the emissions for us. Nobody's monitoring the amount of cars that are cutting through. And there's safety issues. I've asked for bike sharrows to be put in on the streets because as the people come in those electric bikes in the fog lane, there's people in wheelchairs, dog walkers. She's getting sick from the emissions. I've taken her multiple times now for tests, and they said that it's from the emissions of the vehicles. My request is, please, somebody consider helping us out with Fire Mountain and all the cut-through traffic. We've had a lot of accidents in there from drunk drivers at night. And I urge you to, number one, with the developments, please consider infrastructure first. This is key to our city. All of our streets. Oceanside Boulevard should have been 6 lanes in 2007. It wasn't. Now it's you can't do it. Anyways, as a charter city, I know that you do have a little bit of leeway from the government. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn Kramer, followed by Roger Davenport.
Good evening, council. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the staff because that was a lot of work. And you guys did a great job. Thank you so much for your time. I was one of the many people that gave up our holiday season a few years ago and beat the streets for the vote of the people of Oceanside to protect our farmland. So unfortunately, that vote was shot down by a judge. And ever since then, we've been waiting for a council majority like you who represents and listens to the voice of the people. So I'm going to make it real short and just say I support the position and the protection of the 2.5-acre land use and agri-tourism. So let's hitch up the horses to the wagon and let's go.
Thank you, Carolyn. Roger Davenport, followed by Chris Nodine.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and staff, City Council. My name's Roger Davenport, and I'm a Sierra Club volunteer who lives here in Oceanside at 541 Crouch Street. Two things I wanted to address in the CAP update. First, as Justin mentioned, the purpose of the CAP is to plan how we will reduce our greenhouse gas production within the borders of Oceanside to meet the California state goals. So if a project doesn't mitigate their emissions within Oceanside, it doesn't help us meet the CAP goals and objectives. So we need a policy that all mitigation for projects must be done within Oceanside. We don't want to see any more projects like North River Farms, which propose to mitigate emissions within Oceanside by purchasing credits outside Oceanside. Second, we saw these graphs earlier. I just would point out that around 2045, when the goal goes down to the lowest value there, notice that the electricity bar is gone, the transportation bar is nearly gone, but the natural gas bar is about the same as it was before. So in order to meet that goal, we've got to get rid of basically all natural gas usage, okay? We can't do it with a 10% reduction. So to address this, a CAP update calls for upgrading 60,000 buildings in Oceanside with energy efficiency upgrades. And this results in the single largest contribution to greenhouse reductions in the CAP. And we support this electrification of homes and businesses. Trouble is that you've got a goal of 60,000 houses with only 400 upgrades by 2030. If you do the other 59,600 between 2030 and 2045, that's about 16 buildings a day for that whole period. So we really would like to see, how this major accomplishment is going to be accomplished and have it laid out in detail, including how the funding is going to be handled. So thank you.
Thank you. Chris Nodine, followed by Chiwa Slater. Mr. Nodine?
Good evening, Mayor Sanchez and esteemed council members. My name is Chris Nodine. I'm a 15-year resident of Oceanside. I last spoke to this council in October about this same topic where this particular meeting right here was put on the agenda and voted on, so thank you for that. My neighbors and I live adjacent to the easternmost terminus of the Vista Way Smart and Sustainable Corridor's planned boundary. The plan includes a lot currently identified as 3698 Vista Way that will have a direct impact on our property, our quality of life, and our children's future. We're asking for the removal of this lot from the SSCP on behalf of all residents in the coastal Serena community and surrounding areas of Oceanside. The entire neighborhood has provided some volume of comments to both planning and city council regarding the SSCP. However, we can find no record of any of the comments my neighbors or I have submitted in person or in writing. Labeling 3698 Vista Way as vacant by how it's currently zoned, while all other properties on the SSCP are labeled as they are zoned, further minimizes our concerns and does not accurately represent the issue. The SSCP should be focused on zoning vice vacant lots. My prior research revealed that our neighborhood was the only residentially zoned property on the SSCP. Our sole focus is to make sure that permitting and development decisions aren't controlled by developers and the state by local elected government that listens to input from its citizens. We ask the council to exclude the property identified as 3698 Vista Way from the Smart and Sustainable Corridor specific plan and have it remain as currently zoned RS than general plan update. I would further like to discuss general plan pages 3-21 and 3-22 regarding exemptions to zoning. I would like to request removal of allowable permitting for residential care facilities under LMDR as they are possible to permit with a special use permit. This is not the intent of residential zoning, and this does not make sense with the LMDR designation or the MDR designation. It's a business with a staff run in a neighborhood. I have identification specific for APN 653605900 that I've already provided and can provide further if necessary. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you. Chiwa Slater, followed by Randy Stotland, followed by Thomas LaCroix.
Mayor Sanchez and esteemed council members, as an Oceanside resident and a Sierra Club member and member of the CAP committee for the local Sierra Club, I am very much concerned about the threat to our farmland. Once I read the general plan update, I was happy to see that clustered housing was removed from it, but then reading on, I saw that they're still planning to put it into the South Morrow Hills Community Plan, which would be a disaster because we need to protect our farmland. It is irreplaceable. It performs a number of vital functions that will be downgraded if that happens. First of all, it supports wildlife and gravely endangered insects and birds that pollinate our food crops. And speaking of our food crops, as the climate warms, the per acre production drops. And so we're going to need more farmland, not less. Increased fire danger, I'm worried about that. Farmland retains a lot more moisture than developed land. And so it can slow the spread of fire, and it can also protect against flood and drought, because when it soaks up all that rainfall, it recharges our groundwater. And finally, climate change. California farmland has been shown to emit less than half of the greenhouse gases of developed land. Our food, our water, our ecosystem, our survival, they all depend on the preservation of our farmland. We need to stop all the work on the South Morrow Hills Community Plan. A better approach, as one of my colleagues suggested, would be to do a simple overlay district to support Tier 2 agritourism. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stotland, followed by Thomas LaCroix.
Mayor Sanchez and City Council members, thank you for allowing me to speak with you tonight. My name is Randy Stotland. I live at 3305 Buena Hills Drive with my wife Shoshana and our disabled son Jonathan. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to the inclusion of the vacant lot at 3698 Vista Way in the Sustainable Corridor Plan. I want you to know that none of my neighbors on Buena Hills have been notified about this meeting tonight. As a resident of this community, I am deeply concerned that high-density development on this lot will have significant negative impact on my property and may even compromise the foundation of my home. The potential consequences of such development are serious and must not be overlooked. This location is wholly unsuitable for high-density housing due to several factors, including inadequate parking in the area, which would lead to increased congestion and further strain on local streets. Additionally, traffic in this part of the city is already a concern, and adding more residents would make the problem worse. Also, there's a lack of nearby public transportation. Another key issue is terrain of the property. The land is steep and uneven, posing substantial difficulties for construction. Any development on this lot would likely be costly and complicated, which would increase the risk of unforeseen infrastructure issues that could negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood. Residents of Buena Hills Drive will be particularly affected by this proposed development. Given these concerns, I strongly urge you to reconsider the inclusion of this lot in the Sustainable Corridor Plan. Additionally, I request the council remove the ability to obtain special use permits for residential care and medical facilities under multifamily zoning on this property. Please keep this for single-family homes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. LaCroix, followed by Linda Walshaw, followed by Diane Nygaard.
Honorable Mayor Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Joyce, city staff, my name is Thomas LaCroix. I was born in Tri-City Hospital and I love Oceanside. I'm here representing Strong Towns Oceanside, which is a local group devoted to making Oceanside a better place. Our community vision, looking at that, it said in there, our community vision is to limit further urban sprawl, preserve natural resources, conserve farmland, support active transportation, do all sorts of things, and at the same time, the city will protect the integrity of single-family neighborhoods. That was important enough to outline in just, it's clear as soon as you read it. And that single-family zoning is 70% of our residential land. So that's pretty important. We're protecting 70% of our residential land. Asking Google, why was single-family zoning invented? It was pioneered in Berkeley, California in 1916 in order to segregate minorities and maintain racial homogeneity by restricting development to single-family homes, effectively preventing the construction of multifamily housing and limiting housing options for lower-income families. And it's done that. We lack anything in between a single-family house and a multi-story apartment building in Oceanside, even still. And we're fighting, and we heard that we're going to put 2/3 of our growth in the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Plan into a very small percentage of our city still. So I also heard us talk about ADUs. And ADUs are the only moderate and low-income housing built in the last few years. And those have been built all across the city. That's a success story. So that is something that we should consider. Maybe we should be doing something to gently add more housing across.
Thank you. And just to let you know, ADUs are not on the agenda. They will be on the next council meeting agenda as far as I understand. So we will not be able to discuss that today. Ms. Walshaw, followed by Diane Nygaard.
Good evening, Council. Linda Walshaw, Mobile Home Advisory Committee. We just completed a study with San Diego Seniors Community Foundation and UCSD researchers that shows that Oceanside is expecting a large population increase over the next 5 years that will be 97% seniors. That's in addition to the seniors we already have as baby boomers are aging and retiring. And that is Sandag's numbers and the census numbers. So we have, of the 19 parks we originally had, mobile home parks, we have 17 remaining. Of those 17, 6 have been purchased by equity investors. And the best predictor of their future behavior is their past relevant behavior in other cities. San Marcos is currently going through a challenge and an emergency moratorium because they're trying to end senior mobile home parks, citing new decisions by the Supreme Court that override federal law on keeping things senior protected. So we have a challenge ahead of us. The average rents in Oceanside are around $3,300 to $3,500 a month. The average Social Security income and disability checks are $1,374 a month. That does not pencil out. One of the things we've proposed to housing and to the council before is that we allow developers to donate a portion of land for larger developments that can be dedicated to build modular or manufactured housing. They could be run as nonprofit parks so that people would be means tested in order to buy the homes there. The developers wouldn't have to build anything except the utility hookups. Everybody that we've talked to pretty much says we don't see why not. It's already allowable to do that instead of paying in lieu fees in our ordinance. And we have to do something to plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane Nygaard, followed by Joe Hill, followed by Steve Burrell.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council, Diane Nygaard, representing Preserve Calavera. Tonight, let us all remember the billions of dollars and lives lost from the severe storms in the Midwest this last week and the devastating wildfires in our own state a few weeks earlier. We dodged a bullet. But time is running out. It's running out for our natural resources and to stop the ever-increasing impacts of climate change. We need to get this general plan update adopted so that the good things included in it, like removing the RDO interchange, actually happen. And we look forward to seeing the substantial improvements that staff has already talked about. But there's 2 things we ask you to do tonight. First, direct staff to stop all work on the South Morro Hills Community Plan. Our community vision statement, ballot measure, and litigation have shown time and again Oceanside residents value our farmland and want to keep it. It's meaningless to remove all references to clustered housing in the new draft and then turn right around and start planning for a community plan to put them back in. Honor the commitment to not convert our farmland to more housing. Instead, work on a much simpler and cost-effective overlay district that could address the value of agritourism. Secondly, we need to create a funding stream that supports a transportation system that works. We're going to be adding, we know that density is coming in the corridors, but what transportation system improvements? It's great that we're going to be doing an active transportation plan after we adopt the general plan, a year, 2, 3 years from now. Today, our policies allow us to add trips on those failing roadways with no mitigation for alternative transportation. We cannot keep doing that. We already have a bike plan. We already have a pedestrian plan. Yes, they're going to be updated. They need to be incorporated now in a nexus study and actions. And as these continue to be refined, that needs to be addressed every 2 years. We can adjust it, but we need the framework in place now. Please take action tonight before time runs out. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Hill, followed by Steve Burrell, followed by Kalen Frank.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Joe Hill, 26-year resident. Last July 2024, Russ Cunningham updated Onward Oceanside and eliminated the language regarding clustered housing from the ECLU and VSR because of the community's desire to address agritourism Tier 2 and other farmland conservation strategies. But guess what? He left the in-your-face disclaimer that is on page 29 of the staff report tonight that allows cluster housing later if a South Morro Hills community plan is ever approved. That is an insult and a contradiction, and maybe it's a trick to the public. Cluster Housing Policy 572 also still exists in the agriculture document of the DEIR, which needs to be eliminated. This fact was also brought up many times since Russ's update, so why is it not part of tonight's staff report discussion? Unfortunately, our current consultants and staff, who are well known for urban planning and housing, are disgracefully suggesting cluster housing on farmland just to appease and pander to 6 out-of-state city property owners, one from Illinois, who own a total of 846 acres, and 2 Oceanside property owners that own a total of 218 acres. Perhaps a large chunk of the almost $3.8 million allocated to our urban planners should have been spent on hiring a successful agritourism planner. Let's not perpetuate the current NRF abomination by destroying even more farmland. Eliminate paragraph 1 on page 29, policies 5-72 in the DER, and stop working on the current South Hills community plan. Has always been about cluster housing. I'm sure our 2 developer and BIA supporting council members, Mr. Weiss, who approved NRF, and Mr. Robinson, who supported it, will immediately make a motion and a second to accept the staff report as presented tonight with no additional changes or even attempt to stall the process with some other method. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Steve Burrell, followed by Kalen Frank, followed by Allison St. John Inglis.
Steve Burrell, Oceanside. Mayor, council members, thank you for receiving us. I just wanted to mention that we're in the process of developing an action plan in partnership with AARP and the City of Oceanside. So what I hope is at some point soon, it's a process, we won't have the plan probably till December. So we're still like listening to people and there'll be a lot of deliberations. So at some point we need to get together. My hope is that we will have a better plan for the city because we do, and both of us will have a plan, and there's a lot in what I anticipate will be our plan. It's an action plan that has to do with a lot of things that are in the cities. So I wanted to say that. Also, I wanted to say we're starting what is really a wave of change in terms of the proportion of elderly people in terms of the population. And so we need to address that. I wanted to say that. I want to say one more thing, and that's I've been asked to be a part of a survey we're doing on the part of transportation that has to do with human services, and it's a very important piece of it. Most of us don't know that this is a separate entity in a way, but I'm talking about transportation for people who aren't able to drive, disabled. There are 4 or 5 at least different programs, and we need to look at that. And we're going to look at it through our with ARP's help, for the whole county. But hopefully we'll be coming back with you with some information to share about what needs to be done to improve the service in that area. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Kaylin Franks, followed by Allison St. John Inglis, followed by Bob Ashton.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kaylin Frank, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Building Industry Association of San Diego County, representing over 5,000 members. I appreciate this opportunity to speak. Oceanside is growing, and we need policies that support housing production, not make it harder. Housing and sustainability are not opposing goals, but when new regulations drive up costs and delay projects, we end up with fewer homes and higher prices. The general plan update must include more opportunities for housing. We strongly support zoning for more homes, especially near transit and job centers, and streamlining the approvals process so projects aren't stuck in red tape for years. In updating the Climate Action Plan, the city should focus on practical, achievable policies. Sustainability efforts must not create new barriers to housing development. Policies like REACH codes, electrification mandates, and additional impact fees may appear well-intentioned, but they come with serious consequences. They increase construction costs, making housing even less affordable for working families. They limit energy choices before the grid is even ready to support full electrification, and they discourage investment in the community as additional mandates make projects financially infeasible. Housing is a climate solution. The more we build near jobs and transit, the fewer emissions we generate from long commutes. Density and affordability are key climate strategies. Oceanside cannot meet its affordability, economic, and environmental goals if we don't build enough housing. We need policies that remove barriers to construction, increase housing capacity, and make sure sustainability efforts are aligned with real-world housing production. I urge you to ensure these plans support a growing, thriving, and a livable Oceanside, not only for today's residents, but also for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. St. John Inglis, followed by Bob Ashton, followed by Leslie Gall.
Good evening. Thanks for taking our comments. I'm Alison St. John, a longtime Oceanside resident and a member of the Sierra Club Oceanside. So I'm proud of Oceanside for addressing climate change in the general plan update and for hiring a sustainability program administrator, Justin. But in the introduction to the draft cap, it states, quote, "The city has sought to prepare an updated cap that can be effectively implemented without extensive reallocation of city resources." Now, in terms of getting real about what may be the biggest crisis facing us as Oceanside citizens, climate change is very likely the existential threat that could ultimately put all our other efforts to naught. The main impact we've experienced so far is watching our beaches shrink. We have not experienced devastating fires or devastating floods yet, but our own documented studies suggest the Strand and the harbor roads will be regularly flooded at high tide in the not-too-distant future, and fire is, of course, constantly a threat already. Crises are less expensive if we take steps to prevent them from happening, or if they are happening, to prepare for them ahead of time. So I urge you to consider that this is a high-priority budget item and not something to be shortchanged. One specific point, one goal in the cap is to add 200 trees a year to our streetscapes. Not just palms, but real trees that offer shade. I understand the city's been unable to hire a new arborist, is struggling to maintain its existing trees, and may be at risk of losing its Tree City USA status. Increasing our tree canopy is not only relatively economical and way to provide relief from extreme heat, but also will just make the feel of our city much better as it becomes denser. So, an action item. We need an arborist and perhaps a citizens' tree advisory group to leverage community involvement and nonprofit involvement to help. Please consider initiating those two things. Let's be a leafy city and not a concrete jungle. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Ashton, followed by Leslie Gall, followed by Charlie Bowen.
Yeah, good evening, city leaders, city staff, and fellow community members. Bob Ashton here of Save Oceanside Sand. We're community advocates for responsibly restoring and managing our beaches. Well done to the city staff for your hard work on getting the general plan to this point. Wow, 650 some odd pages. Remarkable. As a beach community, it's good to see the word beach in the general plan over 130 times. There are multiple well-stated goals and priorities regarding beach restoration and sand retention throughout the plan. The general plan states that 54% of our community visits our beaches once a week. And if you do the math, that's 4.8 million visits annually just by our community members. With 65% or 2.4 miles of our 3.7 mile shoreline having no beach, our remaining beaches are overused and overprogrammed. What is clearly missing from the plan that I strongly recommend adding to the general plan is an action item in Section 5 to immediately develop and execute a comprehensive near-term beach nourishment plan coupled with a long-term retention and coastal management plan. The Oceanside community cannot wait any longer for the 2.4 miles of our devastated beaches to be restored. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Gall, followed by Charlie Bowen, followed by Michelle Castellano-Keeler.
Good morning, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Leslie Gall, and I'm the CEO of Visit Oceanside, representing our industry. And first off, I want to thank the city staff for the many years of work and dedication on getting these critical plans completed. It was a long time coming and much needed, something that will contribute to our vitality and our quality of life. We are grateful to have had the opportunity to work closely with city staff along the way, providing input and ensuring that we were aligned, especially as we develop the Sustainable Tourism Master Plan. It's exciting that we are ready to move forward as we look to develop Oceanside in a responsible way, one that honors our culture and heritage while remaining relevant and competitive as a city. As I look up at our city seal, I want to remind everyone of the importance that agriculture and the farm economy has played in our city. It's evident that it's clearly a part of our DNA, and that is why it's important that we adopt the Southmore Hills Community Plan. This plan has been 18 years in the making. There have been 7 workshops along with surveys, economic impact studies, stakeholder interviews, and multiple ad hoc discussions with our stakeholders. It's unfair to disregard all this expertise and input by so many different people. If the goal is to sustain our agricultural region, a community vision plan is the only way. If we don't have a plan with policies in place that protect our heritage and our character while remaining relevant, we will become a nondescript beach community with urban sprawl. We've already seen what happens when you don't have a plan. We will have rolling hills of houses all the way to Fallbrook. And look at, not that we want to be like to Temecula, but the reason why they have preserved Old Town Temecula is because they had a plan. The reason why they were able to preserve that agricultural region and create economic impact with the wineries is because they had a plan. This initiative is also an important goal in our STMP. In fact, the consultants that did our sustainability assessment, along with product development recommendations, said it was critical to adopt this plan. It became clear that protecting our farm economy through agritourism and maintaining our rural landscape not only will preserve an important part of Oceanside's heritage, provide a unique economic opportunity for Oceanside that will keep us relevant to today's consumers. With respect, please consider to move this work forward and allow for the discussion to occur. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I concur with Bob Ashton on his.
Charlie Bowen, followed by Michelle Castellano-Keeler, followed by G.T. Wharton.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Charlie Bowen, and I run communications for Save Oceanside Sand. Tonight, I'd like to discuss a remarkable community element, which is a new component of the general plan that considers the question, what makes Oceanside remarkable, and how do we preserve, enhance, and better leverage the city's remarkable attributes? I will also review the city's community survey results that were released in August 1st of 2024. What makes Oceanside remarkable is that it has a beach. Oceanside is one of 13% of California cities that have coastline. That makes Oceanside a pretty special place. It's in our city name. We are a city by the side of the ocean. We have also recently redefined our beach as infrastructure that requires capital improvement planning and maintenance. Arguably, that makes the beach the most important asset in our city, one that necessitates restoration and preservation, and one that we are in danger of losing. In support of this, let's consider the results from the survey. When respondents were asked, what do you consider to be Oceanside's greatest asset? Almost 85% said beach and coastal amenities. That answer exceeded all others by over 50%. Moreover, to the question, what are some of your favorite things to do in Oceanside outside of your home? Almost 70% answered go to the beach and or harbor, which was over 15% greater than the second most popular choice. Clearly, the beach is a vital resource to our city, one that deserves restoration and resiliency. Save Oceanside Sand continues to support the Re-Beach pilot project. Nevertheless, we think more needs to be done to provide Oceanside relief from beach loss. We are beginning to advocate for near-term sand nourishment and will continue to do so. As we approach planning for our city in the upcoming budget workshop, we urge you to make beach restoration the priority it needs to be for our community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Michelle Castellano-Keeler, followed by G.T. Wharton, followed by Joan Bachman.
Hello, my name is Michelle Castellano-Keeler, and I'm a third-generation farmer in South Morrow Hills. My family actually started farming in 1925, and we're proud to be celebrating 100 years of farming. We've been actively participating in the South Morrow Hills Community Plan, and I'm disappointed to hear that we're now suggesting removing aspects of that plan or have removed them. Around 2008, we came to the city and to our neighbors encouraging a plan for South Morrow Hills when farming was no longer a viable option for farmers faced with pressures and including neighbor issues. After years of working together and creating this community plan that would work for everyone at the table to preserve agriculture and to pay for the needed infrastructure, it's disrespectful and disappointing that those who are at the table are now coming here suggesting we remove aspects of the plan. And we go back to the start. I realize that there's new council members and staff who have not been part of this process since 2008, but there's been numerous meetings, workshops, everything has been well documented, and we shouldn't ignore those conversations. It's also important to note that none of the South Morrow Hills stakeholders are in agreement. We are the farming families, and it's our farmland. It's concerning when a bunch of non-farmers are the ones telling you how to operate or not operate farming operations and how to preserve farmland. Farming is getting extremely difficult. I don't have time in 2 minutes to tell you about our water and labor costs, government restrictions, offshore competition, and more. But if you want to hear about it, I'm happy to tell you about it offline. To sit here and say we're going to save farmers, if we're going to save farmland, we have to talk about the farmers paying for all of that, including the mortgages. And I haven't heard anyone offer to help us pay for that to save farmland. The future viability of farmers doesn't happen restricting farmers to a plan that's dated since before 1960. The future of farming could be ag tourism. It is a possibility. But Tier 2 agritourism would need to be robust, and it's not feasible without that significant infrastructure that needs to be paid for. Those ag tourism visitors need to park a lot of cars, flush a lot of toilets, and to plan otherwise is not viable. I want to end by saying I hear a lot of people talking tonight about our farmland, our open space, respecting the farmland, respecting the farmers. But when we've been working on that plan and have been part of the process, and then I come here and find out those same people want to change the plan, or you guys are going to change the plan without inviting us to the table, it makes us feel not respected at all.
Thank you. G.T. Wharton, followed by Joan Bachman, followed by Megley.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Sanchez, Deputy Mayor Joyce, council members, and city staff. My name is G.T. Wharton. I'm a District 3 resident. I'm co-founder of Strong Towns Oceanside, which is one of 252 local conversations of strong towns in the U.S. and Canada. We advocate for affordable housing, safer streets, transparent city budgets, and an end to suburban sprawl and car dependency. Now, first, the Smart and Sustainable Corridors calls for higher density along 3 dangerous stroads. A stroad is essentially a high-speed, high-traffic road that is placed in a city where a slower street should be, which is in the middle of where people are supposed to live, work, play, bike, simply exists without the fear of being hit by a car. So we are essentially saying future residents are going to be relegated to living alongside Mission Avenue, Oceanside Boulevard, and Vista Way, where there is a high risk of traffic fatality, high noise pollution, and high air pollution. For example, Oceanside Boulevard becomes a 55-mile-per-hour, 6-lane freeway at El Camino Real, where we just had a fatal accident this past weekend, the same intersection Ellen mentioned. You may also know that in 2024, we had one of the highest fatal accident rates in recent history. We had 20 people killed on our roads, and we do not have all the official data yet. It's possible that number is actually higher. Now, prior to last year, the average fatalities were 11 per year. And the GPU is making no commitments to improve the safety of these stroads. Yes, there were sections we heard about that are going to be pedestrian priority zones, but there was really no commitment to fix them systemically. There was no commitment to reduce the number of lanes, reduce the speed limit, or a commitment to Vision Zero. Now, Oceanside just signed on to be an AARP age-friendly city. That initiative calls for safer streets. And so we ask you to please take this initiative seriously. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joan Bachman, followed by Meg Lay, followed by Stuart Shine.
Joan Bachman, Seaside Neighborhood. Great job by staff and especially Rich Cunningham, who was so pragmatic to get this to this point. The SRE notes that crime can be controlled through good design. This is true for many issues like traffic and housing. The loudest voices in the public input are not always good design. Common sense is often just wrong, as shown by actual measurements. Really true with traffic. An example of this is people complaining about traffic when they really mean speed. Speed is controlled by street design, not signs. Good design is not merely as expensive as many years of bad design. As much as I love my Strongtown guys, I do support them, but I do want you to support our existing neighborhoods. I think we can get there with our existing neighborhoods as they are. ADUs are nothing new to my neighborhood. And please also add churches to the SSCP, since many are land rich on major corridors. Now, sprawl is bad design and causes more traffic, uses land inappropriately, and is a huge drain on services. We need all types of housing. We need big houses, big estates, and small houses. We need the gamut. If you go one way or the other, it doesn't work, and we do need that missing middle. Children live in high density, so we must give them places to play, safe streets and other services in urban areas. They're not out there in the big lots. Invasive plants steal land from life-giving habitat. So we've got to have a policy that stops these invasive plants and goes for actual removal of them, even if they're a street tree. So please follow the course on this plan. I've been involved in this many years. I think you'll see that from the public input. And this is my second lifetime romp through the general plan. Last time they were making decisions at 2 a.m., which is why your meetings stop at 10, or you can't open a new thing. I was there. And we did the right thing. We saved the neighborhood. We got where we need to go. It was good city planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg Lay, followed by Stuart Shine, followed by Elvis Sevilla.
Hi, I'm Megan Lay. I'm an Oceanside resident. There was just a couple of things that I wanted to comment on. I already sent in public comments to you guys earlier via email, but these are the ones I want to speak about. In the project objectives, for Objective 4 and Objective 5, it talks about land use compatibility conflicts and the integrity of protecting single-family neighborhoods. I really like those, but I think that they just need to be expanded on because it's kind of loosey-goosey right now. Like, we actually need what does integrity mean? Like, how is that going to be measured? How is a conflict going to be measured? The other thing that I want to go and advocate for is regarding transit-oriented developments. I believe that they should include transit passes as part of the rent agreements to encourage public transportation use. That currently is not being done. I know throughout the state there are ordinances in other cities that have adopted this. And there are also state laws that allow for our city to do it. Under Government Code 65470, the city can achieve this by adopting an ordinance to participate in the transit priority project program and establish an infrastructure financing district. So doing this will actually align with the Climate Action Plan and the corridors plan. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Shine? Is Stuart Shine here? No? Okay, Elvis Sevilla? Elvis? No? Mitch Silverstein, followed by Jimmy Knott?
I have all their minutes too.
No. Get to the point.
Honorable Council and staff, Mitch Silverstein with Surfrider Foundation, Oceanside Bike and Pedestrian Committee, Strongtown Oceanside, beach and nation lover, local renter. Overall, very supportive of the general plan and cap updates. Kudos all around to staff for the hard work. Support the CAP update, but as written, it does fail to hit state GHG reduction targets for 2045 and 2050, so it needs to be more ambitious. A few ways to do that include adding teeth to the proposed Energy Upgrade Oceanside program, which shows the highest potential for GHG reductions in the entire update. By teeth, I mean adapt a REACH code that requires new builds and major retrofits to remove gas infrastructure and electrify. Staff can write you that ordinance. They consider this action, but put it in the quote, future items to consider bucket. Our climate crisis requires action today. This may well be the single most effective way to meet our CAP goals. That's fully within council power. Transportation is by far the top contributor to city GHG emissions. The CAP stated goal to reduce vehicle miles traveled, though, is only 6% by 2045. Considering the CARB scoping plan calls for statewide VMT reductions of 30% by 2030, we need to raise the bar here. Complete streets, slow streets, managed parking, and major active transportation improvements will all contribute. So will increasing jobs to housing ratio and working with schools to get students there and back with fewer car trips. The CAP mentions updating the local coastal program. I wish it wasn't such a massive lift to do, but it's absolutely necessary. The land use plan from the 80s is insufficient to deal with challenges we face today along our coast. Please prioritize an LCP update so the city has better options to regulate coastal beachfront development that contributes to beach loss. Smart and sustainable corridors. I support smart growth in already developed areas versus more unsustainable sprawl. But how are we going to ensure that concentrating development in those three corridors results in actual livable neighborhoods that are walkable, bikeable, and served by transit? How can we ensure connectivity between those corridors? And right now, the three corridors have a long way to go before they become complete streets. This is a huge concern that I ask you all to stay on top of. Also, you can relax exclusionary single-family zoning to include more mixed and multi-family development. That doesn't mean a skyscraper next to a house. I'm talking about missing middle housing that fits in the neighborhood. There's plenty of examples close by in Seaside and other historic neighborhoods, for example, and these remain highly desirable areas. Please consider relaxing zoning as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy Knott, followed by Rena Morocco, followed by Mike Bullock.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. First off, I want to say thank you to staff, but question is what is Oceanside? Oceanside right now is an aging city. Literally, the population is aging. And what the plan you have before you is written for a younger age. And this is something that we have to start considering, is that with our aging population, as exampled right here, and I have to agree with a lot of previous speakers, fire safety within the manufactured home communities is imperative and important. We need public safety parity for everyone in our city. This is just this last week. This is just the last couple days where we had a fire into one of our parks. Now, that costs a lot of time and effort and money for our city to address. Then there's other areas of traffic and parking that have not been addressed. Then you have the city's rights to develop and control our development within the city that haven't been addressed. Then there is little addressing forward and future uses, like as an example of our ocean. You know, things here are really just looking at a small snapshot of things close. We're not looking forward. Please start looking forward. If we don't, youth will be out there missed. Thank you.
Thank you. Rena Morocco, followed by Mike Bullock, followed by Wendy Bravo.
Madam Mayor, esteemed City Council, staff, City Clerk, and City Treasurer. My name is Rena Morocco. I am the current president of the Vista Unified School District Board of Trustees. Many of our schools are within Oceanside city lines, so boundaries, and so I am here to advocate for safe transportation. As you are doing this climate action plan and revising the city plan, please keep in mind our schools, that within a 2-mile radius of our schools is kind of a hot spot. Our children, our district cannot provide, well, our commitment is to provide transportation for students that live 2 miles out. So sidewalks, safe bike paths, and public transportation are all things that can help. And realize that this directly impacts some of our most vulnerable families, our most socioeconomically challenged families who have maybe just one car that one parent has to take to work. And so 2 miles is a long way to walk for a 6 or 7-year-old. So I'm just advocating for that. And so I thank you for everything that you're doing. And I look forward to a long and fruitful partnership with the City of Oceanside. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Bullock, followed by Wendy Bravo, followed by Charlene DeVay.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I'm Mike Bullock. I live at 1800 Bayberry Drive in Oceanside. Tonight I'd like to comment on the updated climate action plan. I think its link should have been easy for the public to use, starting from that agenda, but I found it difficult. I did find the link on the city's website, however. My focus is on the climate action plan's transportation demand management, TDM, because cars emit the most greenhouse gas. We must focus on 2030 because it is humanity's first occurring climate stabilization requirement. As written by California's Attorney General Harris in 2011, paraphrasing, California's climate mandates can't be ignored because they are about climate stabilization, the objective of CEQA. I appreciate that Councilmember Figueroa talked about climate stabilization on his campaign website. Thank you. Now on page 1.3 of the Climate Action Plan, the TDM ordinance is identified. Since TDM plans are being required, Oceanside should have a TDM plan for their own employees. On page 1.4, it says that the updated Climate Action Plan helps achieve climate stabilization, and all projects in Oceanside should conform with the CARB scoping plan. That's certainly true because it is California's official climate stabilization plan. Section 2.1, climate science, should include the NOAA plots and the discussion as shown in the email that I sent you today. The amount of time, wow. got halfway through. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wendy Bravo, followed by Charlene DeVay. And let me just call out Stuart Shine or Elvis Sevilla. No, I guess they left. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'd like to take you on a little poetic walk right now and read you some text that might be familiar to some of you. Introduction. The environmental resource management element is a workable program designed to conserve natural resources and preserve open space. It is founded on the principles of conservation, which are the preservation, planned management, and wise utilization of natural resources. One of the primary methods of implementing the program is through open space planning. Open space is generally defined as all areas of land and water in a more or less natural area not covered by man-made structures. This includes all natural areas approached by man: bays, cliffs, forests, lagoons, mountains, and ocean, as well as developed areas that maintain a natural state. And it goes on to talk about, really in a poetic way, what our natural resources should be handled in this town. That was in that Plan 1975 written, and I put to you that this plan update is too rather larded with and it needs to be gone over in terms of Continuous with agritourism, which is the beauty of Oceanside as its extant now. Design around that, please, because in other places, the movement is away. He's standing for an open space. We need those open spaces as our children's heritage. So I beseech you, go back to the drawing board.
Thank you. And last but not least, okay, bring us home. Charlene DeBay, is it?
Thank you for giving me the time to speak. I am a Costa Serena resident, and I'm requesting that you remove the parcel listed at 3698 Vista Way to be removed from your smart and sustainable corridor plan. I'm all for growth and sustainability of our great city, but I'm originally from Orange County, and I left there to live here because of overdevelopment causing overpopulation and the elimination of open land. The development poses significant risk to our environment, property values, quality of life, and community infrastructure. I'm sure we all remember the disastrous rains that caused the 78 to shut down completely for months. It turned Vista Way into a parking lot, and what took me 2 minutes to get to the freeway took me 25 minutes just to get to college. The area is unbuildable and unstable soil, and it has excessive sloping. The nearest rail is 2.2 miles away. There are no bus stops or routes along this vicinity. It is very dangerous for pedestrians and bicycle traffic. The amount of redevelopment required to sustain this project would be costly and disruptive to the residents in the area and commuters using Vista Way. The addition of low-income housing is not needed in our area of the tract. This is extremely, we already have low-income apartments at the corner of North Way and Vista Way, and this has caused a rise in crime and parking issues, which cause us to implement parking passes. This will also worsen traffic congestion, especially on Vista Way. Vista Way had homes on that area before, and they were removed because of the amount of traffic accidents that were caused turning into that area. This area was zoned as a single-family residential. We cannot allow developers to disrupt our areas. High-density development will alter the character of our neighborhood and reduce property values. The close proximity of new structures will reduce privacy and increase noise pollution. The land was not originally intended for development, and rezoning it would be unfair to current homeowners. We were never informed of any of these city council meetings or in any official capacity, nor given the opportunity to voice concerns. There wasn't even a sign directing people to this meeting, and I had to find out about it from my neighbor 2 days ago. We respectfully request that the city and developers halt this project and explore alternative uses for the land to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did anyone else wish to speak on this? On this? On the general plan update? Yes? Okay.
I checked the wrong box. I think it was
Okay, well, that's what happened. Please approach the podium, state your name. You get 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone left their glasses. My name is Eric Bradbury. I'm a resident of Oceanside, and Honorable Mayor and council members, thank you for your time and attention tonight. Staff, thank you for your time as well. And more importantly, for all the hard work that you guys did and everyone that works behind you the last 5 years getting the general plan to where it's at. I just want to say thank you for listening to what the citizens said around getting rid of the Rancho de Oro 78 interchange. Didn't need to be there. We all know that, and it's been removed. And I just want to thank you all for listening to us and making that happen. And that's it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Bianca Bonilla. I am an Oceanside resident. I'm also the executive director of Botanical Community Development Initiatives, a local environmental and agricultural nonprofit based here in Oceanside. I'm a farmer and I'm a biologist, and I love my community here. I worked really hard to assemble comments for the GPU last year, but as I was looking at the documents today, I realized my comments aren't in there, so I might have sent it to the wrong place. But I did want to make a few important points today, specifically about agriculture in our city. The staff report discusses agriculture in South Morrow Hills and farmers markets, but it doesn't go far enough to support a resilient local food system and that ensures food grown here is accessible to Oceanside residents. While preserving farmland is important, we also need policies that ensure that food grown in Oceanside is available to our community. We need to strengthen urban agricultural's role in local food security and support farm-to-table infrastructure so local food can stay in local markets. We need to incentivize climate-smart agriculture that protects soil, water, and public health. A strong community food system directly supports Oceanside's climate action plan by reducing food miles, sequestering carbon, and ensuring that local food production does not come at the cost of community health, soil, or waterways. I have a lot more to say, and I know the general plan update is nearly complete. I know there's been a lot of work on this over the years, but these refinements can really help to ensure a strong, resilient local food system that serves Oceanside's residents, businesses, and environments, creating an infrastructure for a local farm-to-table economy and protecting our resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I don't believe that there were any real questions in any of the presentation. I think basically what public members were doing was letting us know what they think about the work and mostly complimentary with a few suggestions. So we'll go to the council, and of course, council members may have a question. Councilmember Robinson.
Thank you. First, I do want to thank staff for the presentation tonight, because as I reviewed the documents at my desk and going through, if you saw this thing, I have highlights and words and what is this? So I really do thank you for simplifying where we're at right now, and I appreciate it. I can see that a lot of work was done. Just a couple brief comments of support, and one, there was one section in there, I should have marked it better, but, and this only came to mind today because today we toured the airport, some of us toured our airport, and as one of the resources you talk about, somewhere in one of these reports you talk about the harbor and various resources, but I didn't see any mention about our airport as being a valuable resource here in the city. And so I would just encourage you, when you start putting in language, that we include that. For those that spoke from the mobile home communities, I wish I had better answers how to help them, but whatever we can do or whatever can be put into our plan related to our mobile home communities. I know the majority of our mobile home parks are in District 2, and yeah, it's tragic. Jimmy Knott brought it up about the fire the other day. It's very tragic that we had that, but those happen, and they happen. We have fires in many places throughout the city, so, but somehow we have to try to find some way to support our mobile home residents, and I don't have an answer for it, and I've been at many meetings and tried to figure it out, and so I kind of lay it on you to, if there's anything that we can do in a plan for mobile home parks, I would appreciate it, and I think they would too. So let me get to the big one, the South Morro Hills plan. I can't say anything better than Michelle Castellano-Keeler said or Leslie Gall said about our farmland and what's required. And I will echo that I had talked to the city manager, I had talked to city staff some months ago when this was all coming up and it was going to get pulled out, and basically promised that we would move forward with the South Morro Hills Community Plan after the general plan was done. I would remind folks that, and I'm not going to echo what Michelle said because I think she hit it spot on and just really made the right points. But the housing component in this plan is just one thing. There are many other important elements of the South Morro Hills plan, community plan, that need to be addressed. And I would just say, without the farming, without that as the base for what needs to happen, the agritourism means nothing out there without the farming. And if you, I know there's a lot of talk about 2.5 acre lots, but if if you just do some simple math and look, if farming quits, our major farmers quit and start selling off their land at 2.5 acre lots, and I probably underestimated, my guess is you'd have about 1,300 parcels of 2.5 acre lots. And think about what that would look like. Drive through Rancho Santa Fe and tell me if you would go, oh, this is lovely farmland. You don't think that. And there's probably people out there on their lots that do some modicum of farming. What people want and what we talk about is the farm to table type stuff, and that takes our big farmers to do that. So, and it was suggested by somebody that I would do it, so I'm going to do it, just to be sure that it is. I'm going to move a motion that, and I know there's going to be a lot of talk about the plan and stuff, so I'm not going to make a motion about the plan in general, but I do want to make a motion that the South Moore Hills Community Plan does go forward under the additional project deliverables in the plan, that it is not removed and we do take it forward. And then that leaves it open for other council members to talk about other elements of the plan and approve that.
I make a motion that we remove the South Moore Hills Community Plan. Is there a second? Yeah, to remove it. Okay, there's a second on that. There was no second to your motion. So, yeah. Right. What I have to say, I want to. This is something that we have been fighting for 25 years and over that. We have been fighting development in our farmland. I say our, it's our city's zoning laws. And there have been several times that we have actually gone to the people. There has been an overwhelming response by the people to preserve our farmland. It is actually preserving the farmland that we end up not having urban sprawl. 2/3 of our community voted against the North River Farms. We know that housing next to farms means the end of farming. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that whenever you have housing, you have right next to a farm, there are complaints every day about the odors, about whether or not, what is that being sprayed? Is that a pesticide? Actually, it's water. I've talked to some of our farmers. I don't think that that is the answer. I think that the answer is having an overlay for agritourism tier 2. We actually stopped all movement towards that and ended up doing discussions that really went nowhere. So I believe that this is going to be the beginning of doing something positive there. It has to be sustainable. I know that, economically sustainable. We were moving towards that. We had talked about doing, providing water, recycled water. We had talked about doing some partnerships, and everything stopped. Probably because there was a change on the council and those conversations were no longer welcomed. We're not here to do something that we know the public does not want. We want to make sure, and this is why the staff has spent 5 years trying to figure out how to be able to house all these folks that we need to do via the RENA numbers. So one thing we can't have, we don't have any water sewer out there. We don't have any services out there. It would be hugely expensive for the city to provide such services. If you have been paying attention about even the South Moore Hills project, they've had to do funding, be a district to be able to pay for all of that, or some of that, because honestly, they're going to be looking to the city for police, for fire, for, parks and rec, for all of those things that are not within within the area. So this is something that I really feel needs to be respected in terms of moving forward. I really want to set this motion aside and really start talking about what positive things that staff has brought to us, what things we would like to either add to it or, maybe change. So I'd like for the conversation to go that way, and I'm going to go ahead and start to my right with Councilmember Figueroa and just move down. Councilmember Figueroa, do you have any comments?
On that current motion?
No, let's just talk about what we just have spent 2.5 hours, or 2 hours on, 6:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, almost 3 hours on, listening. This is
Point of
first time we get to
clarification.
speak after 5 years, We're all dying to speak.
I apologize, but just point of clarification. So the motion is set aside, so it's back to an open discussion?
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor. We'll address that. But for now, let's just talk about it in general, and I'll take that motion up after we finish talking.
Okay. So I think for me, when I think about everything that we discussed, and I just want to thank staff because that was very extensive, very thorough, very comprehensive. And I know that I believe I took the survey in 2020, right? And so, I attended some of these virtual sessions. And so thank you all for participating in and, contributing to that. And I know there was other staff members that did as well. So very thankful for all of that and your presentation. I think several things stood out to me, but the safe routes to school is a major priority when we think about our communities. There were several members here, I believe from Fire Mountain, South O, and I know that we've had a lot of development take place throughout our city. And what I've heard from residents is, as that development takes place, is really impacting our neighborhoods. And so when we think about some of our elementary schools, some of our middle schools, they're located right in the middle of our neighborhoods, like Fire Mountain, having Palm Quest and Lincoln Middle School, South O, South Elementary. In the Tri-City area, we have Casita Elementary, which is a Vista Unified School, but it's right in the middle of the neighborhood. What's happened with some of these communities is as folks are trying to navigate their way through Emerald Drive, Vista Way, and College Boulevard, they're speeding through the neighborhoods, and these are safe routes to schools where we should have safe routes to schools, but they're also bus stop locations. The same thing is happening in Fire Mountain and South O as folks are trying to navigate through Vista Way, the 5 Highway, the 78. They're using Google Maps. Google Maps is taking them in the middle of the neighborhoods, and we have kids coming and going from school. So the prioritization of having walkable neighborhoods for our seniors and youth, sidewalks and bike lanes to have these safe routes to schools, to me, should be a major priority of our city, starting in closest proximity to our elementary schools and then scaling out. And this is also occurring in the North Valley area as well. We've had 2 elementary schools close over the last 2 decades in the North Valley area, most recently in Reynolds, and that is now causing those families that used to have an elementary school in their community now having to go all the way down Douglas to go to Fusat Elementary. And for anyone that's ever walked down Douglas, you have cars speeding on North River Road and Douglas to get to the 76. And so again, prioritizing the safe routes to school to me is a critical thing for our city. Hearing from for those that spoke about our sand, I think it is important. Our sand is, our beaches are a tremendous asset. They are what brings so many people to Oceanside. It's something that we've all enjoyed, calling Oceanside home. So looking at near-term sand restoration and long-term retention, I think should be prioritized for our city. I do want to talk about Vista Way, and I know some of the residents mentioned the potential rezoning on Vista Way and the development. Vista Way, it is not the most walkable friendly street. I live off Vista Way. I live between Vista Way and Rancho Del Oro on the corner right there, very close to this area. And right now it is, we don't have a sidewalk on both sides of the street, and it's what you would consider a highly dangerous street in regards to the speed that folks drive down Vista Way. I think to put a high-density development there can cause a lot of issues, not just for that community, but for those going west on Vista Way as well. And so just looking at, and I'm a big supporter of the smart sustainable corridors. I think that it's imperative for our community to prioritize smart and sustainable corridors, but giving that specific location, I think there was even something in the report on the roadway network where it stated recommended improvements include continuous sidewalk on both sides of the street, separated by a landscaping strip, landscaped by raised mediums, except on Vista Way. And so for that specific location, it's also, we don't have an NCTD bus that travels through that part of Vista Way. The way that it works right now is that if you're going east on Vista Way, the bus route will go north it turns north on Rancho del Oro. And so at the moment, we don't have a bus stop in that area. And there's parts of Vista Way where some of the bus stops are extremely dangerous. There is not a crosswalk. There is no buffer between the road and the bus stop. It is very dangerous for anyone to even wait for the bus there. And it's even dangerous for the buses to stop there as traffic is moving along. Just a few more things. I did notice that within our, hold on, let me pull this up. Within the healthy and livable community, in table 7.3, potential park amenity and provision and need, I noticed that total current combined inventory we're under when it comes to gymnasiums. And I wanted to know what that looks like and where are the potential locations for gymnasiums. I think that we definitely need a gymnasium on the eastern part of the city, and I would like for us to consider John Landis Park as a specific location for a gymnasium. And also within our parks, Sepulveda Park was mentioned in here in the Tri-City Maricosta community. Considering that we're looking at the development of Sepulveda Park would look like. In the general plan, it says expand recreational facilities and programming at Joseph Sepulveda Park as outlined in the city's park and recreation master plan, improve access to Joseph Sepulveda Park from surrounding residential areas, and explore opportunities to link Joseph Sepulveda Park with future inland rail trail. For those that are not familiar with Joseph Sepulveda Park, it's off of Marvin and Thunder. Many of us that grew up in that community call it Sherborne Park. It is a park that doesn't have a bathroom, and I understand why it's probably considered a neighborhood park. Below Sepulveda Park, it's an open piece of land that connects to Colgate down off of Cameo on, I guess, would be the north side of Maricosta College where the track is. But that has been, if you Google it, that open piece of land that's not developed is, it looks like it's Joseph Sepulveda Park. It's part of the park, but it's just been open land. It's been an informal dog park, a BMX trail for the community. It's been utilized for many different purposes by the community, but I think we have an opportunity there where we're looking at acres of land to expand our park space or do something to connect those two neighborhoods. The community in the Sherborne community has been using Joseph Sepulveda Park. They walk down the baseball field, walk down what is called the canyon, and then walk to McAuliffe Elementary School, and they've created their own safe route to school. And so within that community, so it's really looking at what can be done there. And I think that is it right now for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, staff. This is a really tremendous offer. Offering of work that you've done. I would like to request in advance that we relax the speaking so that we could speak to each other. Just thinking that we're going to get to the end of this 10 minutes pretty fast. So I'll go by the elements and then get to kind of some of the broader stuff. The remarkable community element, I completely agree that we should look at what measures we have to preserve currently affordable manufactured homes that are within the plan. So I'm just supporting what Councilmember Robinson and several of our community members said. In the Safe and Resilient Communities Plan, I think I would like more information about community rates, especially among our youth, of asthma, and looking at what their exposure to hazardous air from either fuels or roadways or landfills that are nearby. I think that part of our plan speaks to environmental justice, and I think that's an area of environmental justice that isn't fully fleshed out in our understanding. And we have a lot of air-related hazards that I'd like to better understand. I'd like our communities to have information about. The Climate Action Plan is such an exciting effort. Welcome back, Justin. We're glad to have you taking on this monumental effort. As you heard tonight, there's just a ton of support from the community in the effort that you're taking on. The work is really an existential task to our race. The city, I would suggest that we as a city should opt up to 100% renewable, and we should, if we're going to be asking others to do it, then I think we need a walk the walk ordinance, or so I think opting up is a great first step. So better understanding what that looks like to our budget, and then leading with our own buildings to make sure that we're using 100% renewable. I would also second some things I heard today about updating our tree plan. I think this is an incredibly important but underappreciated piece of the general plan. Trees are such an important piece of quality of life for every neighborhood. And I'm a runner, so I run around the city a lot, slowly now, but I still run. And when you're in a neighborhood where there is good tree cover, canopy there, it's like you've gotten to this little island of beauty in this space where you can breathe better, where you are protected. And we have people that use our spaces around our city to get to their jobs, to get to their neighbor's place, to get to their parks, and they deserve that space and that feeling all across our city. So updating our tree plan to include trees that are not palm trees in our city, that provide real shade canopy and that are native. So I would really like to see that effort expedited and put on the fast track to the best we can. I understand that we are today in a different moment than we were a couple years ago, because a lot of those grants that we could have used to get trees planted, to do things like safe streets, are being cut back right now, and it's unfortunate, but I think we still move forward as a local entity, recognizing that this is a big investment that we need to make. I do also want to give a point to the local food system. Keeping our food system as localized as possible is a win, 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 win for every single person of our city. If we find that we can sustain our farmers through local consumption, we also find that we have a connection to our foods in a way that is really not happening right now. So I would encourage us to join with other efforts around North County that are looking at really investing in a localized food system. Not just to the city itself, but also with our connecting cities, because that's the local effort. I agree with the commenters that we should look at our own city's transportation demand management plans, and that is, again, the walk-the-walk ordinance. I'd also like us to provide options around just generally intensifying our effort around climate action. So that's the climate action section. I'm skipping down through the South Morro Hill section. The property on Vista Way that was brought up, I understand the concerns, and I think we should be responsive to concerns, but I don't think it's a good precedent for us to start removing one property from the entire plan. And if we did that for this one, I can almost guarantee we're going to have the next community showing up saying, remove our property, remove this property from the plan because it's right beside my house, remove this property. And that puts us right back in the same housing trap where we have nowhere to build the housing because everybody says they don't want it next to them. So I'm up for me, if it's up to me, I'd be up for looking at what that looks like right now, what the anticipated housing is there, to try and make it something that is more palatable to the local community, but I wouldn't want to completely remove it from the plan as we have it at this moment. I just don't think this is the time to do that kind of parcel by parcel pulling out. Okay, to the Smart Sustainable Corridor Plan generally. So the Smart Sustainable Corridor Plan is this agreement that we're going to revitalize targeted areas. I am very concerned that that the housing that we're calling for, that the plan is really built to do, is to put housing into these certain areas in our city. I'm worried that we're thinking that's going to revitalize it, but it's really the public improvements of the roadways, of the trees, of all the things that go along to entice good development into the places that are actually going to do the revitalization. And so I'm very concerned that we're moving forward on a housing where we're going to have a parcel by parcel massive developments of housing without these improvements that really make living in those places a place where high quality of life is expected. And I think we should be expecting that from all of our built environments that we're providing. I'm concerned about upzoning mixed in with the density bonus waivers and how that interchange is going to look when somebody decides they would rather build 100 more units and then instead of participating in our Smart Sustainable Corridors plan, and then we have a mess, so to speak. I think I would like us to really understand what that looks like on a very practical manner. And I understand that we are anticipating people participating in that plan, but I want to know what happens if they don't. I want to make sure that open space is focused in here. When you're talking about building up densified spaces, that means they do not have a front yard. So we need to have open spaces built into that Smart and Sustainable Corridor Plan where they're going to have access to parks. And there are spots in there that do not have that right now. The other concern, and one of my biggest concerns with the plan, is that it lacks incrementality. It lacks the missing middle, which we do absolutely want. As a renter, I'm looking for missing middle because I can't afford, the single family estate homes. Like, that's the only option for those of us that are working in this city with young families. Like, we have to find missing middle, and there is no missing middle right now. This plan says no missing middle. This plan says all big in the corridors. I did hear that 1/3 of our growth is supposed to be outside of there, but we're not doing anything to help that side of our growth along. And if that's where the missing middle is, then I think it should be incorporated into this plan so that we do see the pathway to getting that missing middle housing around our city. Our plan, one of the biggest frictions that we receive, or at least I receive, I can't speak for anyone else, is from community members who may not always be in this space. And they see massive developments that come in to their neighborhood area. The large-scale developments are the things that make it hard for folks to recognize their neighborhoods if they go off to school and then come back. And this plan seems like we're putting most of our development in that bucket. Because we have essentially frozen all the areas outside of the corridor to any kind of intensification, we are guaranteed to get bigger and bigger developments. Now, large-scale development is typically an extractive process. Usually, large-scale development is done by folks who are not from Oceanside. They are building it as a financial product. It's not responsive to local needs. It's responsive to what a large bank can fund. And so if you are building all large-scale stuff, you're not building the things that we are saying we need. You're building large-scale loans. If we find ways to support small-scale development, then we do see that those are more likely to be done by locals. They're more likely to be done by people that are going to live here, that are going to be responsive to the local needs. If we adopt it as it is, I think we're going to get developers taking advantage of the plan with no guarantee of connected communities, access to park space, and guaranteed to high quality of life. So I am asking that we bring this back with some low-intensity options, incremental corridors. This plan seems to guarantee that huge development with less oversight by the council. And less oversight, I mean no oversight, because it will have conformed to what we want, but it will still be without our consent. We've consented today or whenever we adopt it. So I think this should come back for a very specific review so that we can better understand what it's really going to look like. That's all my comments.
Okay. Councilmember Robinson, would you like to speak to other items besides the South Morrow Hills?
From our deputy mayor, I really didn't hear anything that I have any disagreement with, and I could buy into all that. Same thing with Councilmember Figueroa. Just for the heck of it, I'd add, when you talk about trees, one of the issues with our trees here, and hopefully we remove them from any future developments, is palm trees. They are, for people that talk about fire threats, palm trees are some of our biggest problems in wildland fires. So just as you look at, cutting them down, and we need to get active cutting down all the orphan palms that are growing all over the place and getting rid of those. But that is, I just would add that to the tree canopies. I think it is important, and we can have better trees in the city, I think. Thank you.
Councilmember Weiss?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I agree with Councilmember Figueroa on the Vista Way property. I'd like to see a way of, I think it's the only residentially designated property that's in the Smart and Sustainable Corridor Plan. And I'd be comfortable just leaving the general plan designation as RS. I understand there's an issue with the housing element, but I don't support converting it to high density. So whatever method or way we can find doing that, I would support that. And I understand Councilmember Joyce's comments, but I would just like to say this has taken a long time to get here. And personally, I don't want to have perfect get in the way of progress. At some point, we can kick this can down the road for another 6 months, 8 months, year and a half. At some point, I think it's important that we get something adopted. And even if that means coming back incrementally with changes, that's okay. But at some point, we just need to get it done. I heard earlier that we're recirculating the EIR, so now we have additional comments. The EIR is going to be recirculated, come back to us at some point for adoption, and then it's at least another 18 months to 2 years before any of it can be implemented because the zoning has to be updated. So we're still looking at almost a 3-year process from today to get something actually on the books. So I would just propose that we at some point we just need to move forward and get something done and not let, like I said, perfect get in the way of progress. And the only other comment I'm going to make, and it is in relation to Morrow Hills, not necessarily the plan, but a lot of people made the comment, and it's our farmland. Well, it's not, and the mayor made a comment, it's the zoning. Well, it's not our farmland, it's privately owned property. And I would suggest that if we're going to look at doing something along different lines, that we consider doing a citywide parcel tax, and we acquire the property and buy it from the farmers if they can't farm anymore, and we can do whatever we want with it. Whatever the community thinks is important, but whether it's community farming, whether it's leave it as open space. So that's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Councilmember Weiss. I do have some comments. I'm going to start first with some of the things that were mentioned by the public. First of all, as to the status of the arborist. Mr. Borrego, what is the status of the arborist?
Honorable Mayor and council members, that is something that we are looking. You may recall that we recently decided to split a position in Public Works and kind of split the arborist position from another position that previously existed. I will say that as part of the upcoming budget that's coming to you for consideration, that is one of the requests that we're considering, and so there's a pretty good chance that we're going to be funding the arborist position or recommending that that position be funded as part of the upcoming budget.
Okay, thank you. There was a comment by Penny Russell regarding preserving and protecting mobile manufactured homes. And she, in fact, submitted a letter talking about including some kind of language. I don't think it would be a big change that she's asking for. That let's see. She would ask the city to include in the general plan a policy from the California Mobile Home Residency Law on conversions of manufactured home parks that prohibit a conversion or closure of a mobile home park if it will result or contribute to a shortage of affordable housing in Oceanside. I know that that there have been a lot of concerns from residents voiced regarding flooding, regarding fires, and regarding potential emergencies that would somehow lead to, say, a destruction of their homes. And what I'm hearing is that they would like to have the opportunity to replace their homes. I'm sure they probably have insurance. That is something that they would like to be able to do. Is there a way to come up with some kind of language that would move us in that direction? Mr. Borrego or staff?
Yeah, Honorable Mayor and council members, we can certainly look at that.
Okay.
Certainly that was a recurring theme tonight, and we will explore all options before we bring something back to you.
Thank you. Jolene Smith mentioned ag easements that we previously had, and she indicated that they have been removed. Is that what ended up happening with the ag easements? I don't remember that, so I'm just wondering what the status is of ag easements.
Madam Mayor, yeah, thank you for your question. So in comparison to the 2019 cap, there was a specific implementation measure in the cap that did reference agricultural easements. This time around, through my understanding of the public comment and the drafting of the cap update, is that just due to land prices out there and the willingness of landowner to permanently record an easement on their property, and the city's role in that, the ambiguity of the city's role in that, the focus instead was taken on sustainable farming practices and promoting regenerative soil practices, rather than a specific measure that attach the city's responsibility to recording permanent conservation easements on agricultural land.
Would ag easements be available, say, like in an urban area, someone decides they want to do community garden or something like that? Would that be like an ag easement?
The easement programs that I'm only familiar with are for dedicated agricultural lands. These are like the county's PACE program. There's also a statewide grant program. It's SALC. I forget what the acronym stands for, but I'm not aware of urban farming. I'll defer to Sergio. I don't know if you have any knowledge of those types of policies for urban farms.
Mayor Sanchez, I'm not familiar with any policies to, you could
Okay.
do it maybe via restrictive covenant or something of that nature that limits the use of the land to perhaps urban farming, but that would be something an individual would have to
All right.
willingly engage in.
Okay, thank you. I was unclear about that piece. There was a comment about Vision Zero, which is to end fatalities, basically. That's something that Caltrans has adopted. Is that something that we can adopt as a goal?
I would weigh in on that. I mean, certainly it's a policy that could be brought forward for consideration. I will say, however, in my reading of various stories on Vision Zeros and cities that have zero vision plans, they're pretty aspirational, and a lot of cities have adopted those plans and still have a number of pedestrian fatalities. I'm not suggesting it's not good practice, but I just want to caution that
Okay.
the Vision Zero plan, by my take, doesn't mean you're going to totally eliminate fatalities.
Okay. Ms. Langen from the Buena Vista Audubon Society suggested bird-friendly design standards for, I guess it was the windows. Is that something that we can do?
Madam Mayor, often when there's a development adjacent to perhaps sensitive lands, those are typically requirements that are included as mitigation measures. Throughout the city, citywide, in an more urban environment, I'm not sure how effective it would be. They
Okay.
did allude to there are building standards for safe birds. I forget the acronym, I wrote it down. That's something we could look into and bring back a recommendation to council on.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I apologize. I had not heard of that before. Otherwise, I would have talked to you about it prior to the meeting. Chris Nodine spoke regarding 3698 Vista Way. I agree with council members Figueroa and Weiss that leaving that zoning as is seems to make the most sense. I've tried to think of what could go there, and I've followed the trials and tribulations of various activity and what has happened. Basically, there had been grading, and unfortunately, there were rains, and there was a slide, and almost all of those duplex senior at the Costa Serena got the mud right into their backyards. It is a very challenging piece of property with exit really close to the stoplight. So I think that single family just there, I think everywhere else, it makes sense what staff is recommending in terms of the corridor, this smart sustainable corridor. But I would agree with, so there seems to be consensus as to, or 3 council members with respect to just leaving that one property out and keeping that, I believe it's single family zoning there. And hopefully something can be done there and it could be put to rest. Let's see. All right, and then now my general comments. Some of this obviously is having to respond to our state mandates, RENA, right? To where are we going to put these additional housing requirements? And so understanding that Oceanside grew up as mostly single-family communities, and I beg to differ with respect to whether lower-income folks can't afford single-family. They did in the time. My grandfather came to Oceanside, built his home. It was in the east side where there was no water sewer lines. But I mean, the dream was to have a home. And a lot of folks during that time lived through the Depression, were probably homeless for some time of their life, and dreamed about having their home. They didn't really dream about living in an apartment complex. When I visited my grandmother in Tijuana, it was in the colonias, and in the colonias, they're all single-family homes, and they all are, lower income families, but very proud of their ability to have been able to build their homes. Again, very poor parts of Tijuana, but the thing that everyone wanted, it certainly didn't come from Berkeley in Tijuana, right? The idea, single-family home must be, something we are being told by ads that that's what we really want. But I think that Oceanside has been around since 1886, and it is a community that has a real history and real character from first contact with Europeans and the indigenous communities here to now. There is just so much history, so much historic areas of the city. So I do feel that what staff is recommending, building more communities, to be able to house this many people necessarily has to be higher density. So I thank you for coming up with a plan that respects the single-family communities that we have, but also addressing the needs that we have for our families, for the next generations that may or may not be able to afford a single-family house in Oceanside. I mean, look at what's happening with the South O bungalows. They're $1 million homes now, right? As I understand, in San Francisco, the row homes that were built for the working class, or actually the workers, became the mansions of San Francisco, right? So we never know what's going to happen. Maybe the bungalows and our homes are going to be kind of, thought of as really nice homes. I would like to ensure that we incorporate public transit when we design the streets. This is something that Sandag talked about, providing for the public transit, whatever it is, whether it be buses that end up looking like, having a platform so you can get in and out quickly, or micro transit. It's planning for the future. I know some more recent kind of built cities probably have more of the space in the streets because our streets are pretty old, right? So some of them are narrow. But where we can have transit, safe routes to school, something that was spoke about by our president of the Vista Unified School District. Thank you very much, Ms. Morocco, for being here, or Ms. President, for being here and talking about that, because that is something that we're hearing from everywhere within our communities, is safe. So we're talking about safe bike lanes. So I appreciate that we're going to be having that coming to us. Sea level rise, thank you very much for talking about that, but I also would like to talk about subsidence and ensuring that we protect against subsidence. We're seeing these reports from other coastal cities that it isn't just the sea level rise that is having coasts disappear. It's also subsidence that is actually working even more against these coastal cities. Our subsidence, or our what we have in Oceanside, is an aquifer, and we do pump in water, pump out water. So we have to be very, very concerned about the protection of our aquifer, our waterways, ensuring that these can be used far into the future. So I would like to just include in there, protection against subsidence. And I think that's basically it. I mean, I do want to, I know that we got a lot of emails. I know I got a lot of calls about the South Morrow Hills committee plan, which I want to just say that it started when we were in COVID. And it was very, very difficult to, get us together, especially when people were worried about this new thing, right? I think it's better to start to hit the reset button, because the reason why that's not before us is because we could not come to an agreement. It is something that would have basically been voted down because it just wouldn't be an agreement. So my motion is to take that, to eliminate that from our plan here, and do the overlay or whatever other recommendations you might have for that. Mr. Borrego?
Honorable Mayor and council members, I just wanted to make one comment with respect to removal of the Vista Way property from the Smart and Sustainable Corridors Community Plan, and certainly staff will take that direction as we should. As many of you know, the complicating factor for this particular parcel happens to be that it's also included within our housing element of our state certified plan. And so we will definitely need to be checking in with HCD and coordinating with them to remove the plan. Now, generally speaking, you're able to do that if you can demonstrate that you're meeting your goals and that you have land that's designated beyond your reallocation, which we do have. But that said, I just want to say I know there's some additional intricacies there, and so as part of this next step in terms of bringing back options to council, we will definitely need to do that analysis, and I don't necessarily want to presuppose anything at this point until we have those discussions with HCD, because we certainly don't want to run afoul of that agency.
Right. But we can certainly, we have a few months to be able to do this. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So there is a motion on the floor that is to remove the South Morrill Hills Community Plan from the general plan update. Mr. Burke?
I just interject here that
You're,
I thought I hit it. The South Morrill Hills Community Plan is already not part of the general plan update, right? That's the specific item. It was only added to the staff report as an indication that there was a potential to bring it back in the future, right? So that's not actually an item that's part of the general plan update that's here for today.
So it should be direction to staff to remove it.
Again, it's already been removed from the general plan update. It's not a component of it. It's just a reference to a future project deliverable. Staff's recommendation on this was to, and they can look at the development overlay, they can look at all the other parts of it as they move forward in the process. But so, some direction on that would be appropriate, but it's already been removed from the general plan update. The question is whether in the future, is there any process by which, they're going to continue to look at South Morrill Hills? So whether you want to call it the community plan, whether you want to call it a development overlay,
then I
guess staff's recommendation would be to come forward with some sort of public planning process that involves all the stakeholders where you can make that determination, development overlay, not leave it how it is. But that's not part of the general plan update that's before you today.
So what the direction would then be is to no longer have staff work on that, and no longer bring up clustered housing, that clustered housing not be considered at all in South Morrill Hills. So that would be my, is that appropriate? Is that motion appropriate then? Yeah?
I would disagree. I think that the planning process, the South Morrill Hills specific plan is not part of what is before the body tonight. If we want to have a separate discussion on the South Morrill Hills community plan, the reference to it was specifically that it has been removed from the general plan update. There's been a multi-year planning process. It has been paused for several years.
Right.
So that would be staff's recommendation.
Right. But it was not removed. It was going forward separately. That was the direction from staff, that it would be going separately. So that is what I want to address and speak to, is that it not move forward at all.
If the body would like to provide majority direction to staff not to consider any further beyond the general plan revisions to any aspect of South Morrill Hills,
right.
That's part of the work.
Except for moving forward on the overlay for agritourism Tier 2.
So that's a different statement than not moving forward at all. So
well, that was my,
move forward
that
with
was
the planning
my
process and let the planning take place as to what the scope of that looks like. But
all right, this is part of the general plan.
I'll step back out of it. But.
Yeah. My motion was to stop all work on the general, on the community plan for South Morrill Hills, which the report did reference some potential future time that clustered housing could be brought up. And that is why I'm bringing this up now, because I don't want staff to be doing that at all. So the motion then would be, because right now, staff's saying this is going to be done separately. And I'm saying I don't want it to be done separately. I don't want any activity on that. So direction would be to staff to not work, to stop all work on that community plan, because there was some work done, and to bring back an overlay for Tier 2 agritourism. Is that something that could be done?
If I may say a few words?
Yes.
So we certainly did stop working on the community plan, and we had all intentions to pick up that work after the general planning effort was done. I'm hearing the direction accurately is the motion is to stop all work on the community plan. Tier 2 ag tourism uses could be included in the current zoning ordinance for Article 14 that regulates development in in the agricultural zone. The problem is that as just an overlay, it lacks land use authority. It lacks the ability to implement some of the benefits of that Tier 2 ag tourism uses may have. So what we would recommend is perhaps just remove all references to, if this is council's desire and direction, to remove all references to any additional housing above 1 unit per 2.5 acres from the community plan effort, and allow that community plan effort to proceed without the discussion of additional housing. Because the current framework for the community plan does contain many more other items besides just the clustered housing component. It contains ag tourism components, it contains conservation components. So that's what would be a staff recommendation to council.
Perhaps then the direction, the motion can be to remove clustered housing and to bring this back for further discussion.
We'd be happy to do that, Madam Mayor.
And is that okay with the second?
The motion is to remove cluster housing.
Can you use your microphone? Can you use your
The
microphone?
motion is to remove clustered housing.
My question was, if the motion is to remove cluster housing, then yes, I would support that.
Okay.
Second.
So that's a motion and a second. All right. Deputy Mayor Joyce?
So I'll just say this. I don't want to see sprawl development. I was not prepared to go into this conversation tonight, and so I'm glad that it ended with us bringing it back for an actual conversation. I think it's really important to do that because I know there's a lot of voices that have been in this process all along, including a lot of whom are in this room right now. But I do want it properly agendized, so I can state my preference to not have clustered housing, and I would support a motion to bring this back for a full discussion. That would be my preference.
Which is basically the motion. All right. No other requests to speak?
Just clarification, is that the motion then?
The motion is to remove clustered housing and to bring this back for further discussion.
Is after?
This is separate from the general plan update. Right now, it's not together. This is to discuss it separately.
Madam Mayor, may I ask for clarification? Would that item be brought back after the council considers the extent of the general plan update and the smart
No, I
sustainable
think it could be done at the same time, parallel, because we may actually end up getting it into the general plan. the goal is to allow for Tier 2 agritourism. You're telling me that an overlay won't get us there. So I want to be able to get there. Mr. Burke, says City Attorney Mullen. No? I'm not. No? Okay. Councilmember Weiss? I don't think that was you.
So my concern is that it's only doing the Morrill Hills at the same time we do the general plan, it's just going to add another year to the general plan process. Because staff hasn't done anything with the Morrill Hills plan. And they had in here that they will take that effort up after the general plan is done. So if we're going to now merge them again, it's just going to add further delays. And that's my concern.
Okay. So I don't, if there's a delay, we can do it, keeping them separate. But I want to be able to ensure that we are no longer working on the community plan that included, it was heading towards clustered housing. I believe that's what people really, some folks wanted to see happen, which would be an end to farming. That I truly believe that. So it would be to no longer include clustered housing in South Morrill Hills, and to bring this back for further discussion on how to reach the goal of allowing second-tier agritourism. Is that clear?
I think we could accommodate that. That is clear. If the direction is understood, we would bring back the community plan at a different date outside of the effort with the general plan update to include a community plan that does not include any provisions for clustered housing.
Okay. And then that way we have it before us, and we can then, and it won't slow down the general plan update.
I will add that the current general plan effort has removed all reference to clustered housing, and the final documents we bring back for your consideration and adoption ultimately would not include any provisions for clustered housing.
Yeah, I heard a comment that in the staff report there was a sentence or two saying it could be brought back.
We had a sentence that said that it's not being considered at this time, and then there was a reference made to a item in the previous draft of the EIR, which has yet to be updated, we would remove all references to clustered housing from the EIR as well.
Okay. So, okay, there's a motion and a second. Mr. Borrego?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're very clear on one.
Your microphone.
I just want to make sure that we're very clear on one point. So as of right now, as was stated a couple times, staff is not doing any work on the South Morrill Hills Community Plan and has not touched that plan for quite some time now. I'm assuming that this further discussion and analysis about different options would take place after general plan adoption. I do share the concern if we're expected to do that analysis now in parallel, as we're finishing up the general plan, it will absolutely delay consideration of the general plan. I would say, though, unequivocally, we will not touch that plan until we have that discussion with council. So our preference would be, let us get through the general plan. We'll revisit the issue, and you have assurances that we will not touch that plan until we bring that plan back for discussion to council.
All right. Okay, Councilmember Robinson?
I just want to say to your comment about what you think would be the end of farming, you had one of our largest farmers here, and they told you what would be the end of farming, and it wasn't that.
Right, I've spoken to other farmers too. Yeah. Who else was up? Was that you, Deputy Mayor?
I was up, but so we're not doing the motion now. We're just
yes, we are doing the motion, but it's being brought up later after the adoption of the general plan update.
I feel like I'm
being asked to make a decision when we haven't been fully briefed, when we haven't had full conversations. I would be more than happy to state that I do not want to see cluster housing, that whatever the plan that we see going forward, my preference is to not have sprawl development in our farmlands. I just don't want to make a decision that I don't think I've been fully prepared to do by staff or even.
Well, it's just bringing it back to the council.
I mean,
After.
from my understanding, it is going to come back already. And so
No,
I don't want
it's
to.
not.
I don't want to make a decision on a policy
Okay.
document when we
All right.
haven't been
The motion-
properly done. So
The
I'm going
motion
to
is
abstain.
no clustered housing, and to bring this back, because of staff's input, to bring it back after the general plan update is approved, and that it be brought back so we can discuss how to make happen Tier 2 agritourism.
And I understand that, but I'm not going to speak for Councilmember Figueroa, but I have not had a conversation with staff about this in a real meaningful way. And so I don't feel ready to do that. I can tell you that I don't want sprawl development. I don't want to act to change a plan that I haven't been properly noticed to do that with staff. I understand there's large, broad community support for not doing sprawl development. We all agree on that. The motion, I don't want to do it all off the cuff. I want, if we're going to make a motion to just change something that has been in play, that we do it with proper noticing. That's my only preference. So I would be happy to provide direction. I don't want to act on chopping up anything that I haven't had the time to work with staff on understanding.
Okay, well, they'll be bringing it forward so that we can discuss it.
I would totally support bringing it forward so we can discuss it.
Okay?
But that means we'd have a discussion soon before we're changing any of the complete direction. So I would support a direction to find something other than clustered housing to make agricultural, sustainable.
Right. Agritourism.
So, a few things. Given what City Manager Borrego said, the current motion right now, or the way that it would move forward, is that we don't want to impede on staff being able for us to move forward with the general plan, right?
Right.
And so if what is being proposed right now, and this is a question for our city manager, after given what Deputy Mayor Joyce has said, and what our mayor has said, would it impact the ability for staff to move us forward with the general plan in the speed that you would like to be done with it?
No, Mr. Borrego, it would be afterwards.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and council members, as I understand it, we would not be bringing this back for discussion until after the general plan is adopted. I think the distinguishing point here is whether when we bring it back to council, if clustered housing is completely off the table at that point, or if the conversation starts anew. And based on the mayor's motion, I understand her motion is to take it completely off the table so that when we reinitiate it, there would not be references to clustered housing, as I understand the current motion.
Yeah, no clustered housing. All right, there's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion approved, 3-2. Robinson, Weiss, no.
Thank you.
Mayor,
And I
excuse me,
think-
point of order.
Yes.
According to section 2.125, the code, I'd like to have the minutes show that I am opposed to this action for the following reasons. I view this motion to be detrimental to the goal of preservation of farmland, and it also minimizes the cumulative voices of the residents and farmers of South Morrill Hills.
All right, thank you very much.
So reflected.
So do we need to do any other motions? It sounds like we basically agreed and made comments to staff, and we don't need any more motions, correct? No, okay, great. So we now are on item number 2, which is communications from the public regarding items not on this agenda. Do we have any? Yes, we do have a request to speak, right?
We did have some requests to speak, but I'm assuming some of these were meant for the first one. So Penny, did you want to speak on an item off the agenda? To be followed by Joseph Murrow.
Madam Mayor, Council, I'm Penny Russell, Laguna Vista Mobile Home Estate, manufactured home estates.
I just wanted to make one point, and I would like to see the council utilize Article 19, which is the Mobile Home Park District Inland, and Article 29, Senior Mobile Home Park Overlay District Citywide, and Article 34, Mobile Home Park Conversion Citywide provisions of the city zoning ordinance to protect the mobile home community. And I'd also like to change the word mobile to manufactured throughout those articles. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, huh?
Hello and good evening to the Oceanside, or more like good night, to the Oceanside City Council and members of the public. My name is Joseph Moodle. I am 17 years old and an Oceansider born and raised. I came to this workshop to be a voice for the next generation of Oceansiders as we were deeply concerned about the growing gentrification that the city has experienced. As part of my education at El Camino, I'm currently taking the Ethnic Studies course that is offered, to which we are currently researching, studying, and developing a plan to overcome an issue in the city, in which me and my group have been studying the effects of gentrification, which have been startling. Since beginning my research last year, I have found very troubling effects that gentrification has had on our great city. In a report submitted to Congress by the city, it found that between 2022 and 2023, rent prices in Oceanside increased by $800, which hurt our military families and veterans that live in the city. Data collected by Redfin has also found that over the past 5 years, housing prices in the city have risen 8% annually, outpacing our neighboring cities. Most importantly, however, is the data collected by the U.S. Census Bureau, which has found that since 2018, the city has lost around 6,000 residents and taxpayers, many attributing the move to the ever-increasing cost of living. Having researched all of this, it put me and my group to question how we could ever afford to live in Oceanside when we grow older. However, this research has brought up some solutions. Although my research has shown that the city is restricted by laws such as the Housing Accountability Act and the failed passage of Prop 5 and Prop 33 this past November, there are still laws that you all can enact to protect and promote affordable housing in the city. Inclusionary housing forces new developments to have several low-income units. More can be done to strengthen and expand these policies to ensure they are effectively address the housing crisis. COPA forces building owners to sell to their tenants first before being put on the market to protect tenants from rent increases after the sale of buildings. Redistricting allows for more mixed use and mixed income construction to help with the housing shortage, among many other laws and policies that the city can enact to help bring down rent and housing costs. In conclusion, the issue of gentrification in Oceanside is not just a statistic, it is a reality that impacts families, veterans, and future generations like mine. While legal restrictions exist, there are still policies within the city's power that can help make housing more affordable and sustainable for all residents. The city can take proactive steps to curb gentrification and ensure that Oceanside remains a diverse and thriving community. I urge the City Council to take action and consider these solutions, not just for today, but for the future of Oceanside and generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Wanted to speak on off-agenda items?
Anyone else? Raise your hand if you're still here to speak on off-agenda items. Okay. If you signed up for off-agenda items, I should say.
Good evening. I just want to bring it to your attention that the California Mobile Home Residency Law for 2025 has not yet been released for publication by the California Senate. And the booklets are supposed to go out to the parks no later than February 1st each year. So we do not have them. Chair Dominguez of the Manufactured Home Fair Practices Commission contacted the Publications Office of the Senate, and I called the Secretary of the Senate's office, and we investigated this, and what has happened is the publication of the new law effective January 1st is the responsibility of the Senate's Special Committee for Manufactured Homes. They didn't create one this year, so nobody has released it for publication. And I asked her, how then are some other organizations, posting it online or claiming that it's the 2025? She said it can't be because we have not released it. The official legislation has not been released. So they're looking into it. Senator Blakespear's office is looking into it. And I would also like to bring to your attention, on a fun note, Vicki Tillman, who is the board member of MAC and Mobile Home Advisory Committee, and she's also the HOA president of West Winds, has been nominated and will be awarded the Medgar Evers Award at the NAACP celebration on April the 5th for her volunteerism. We are so proud of Vicki. Vicki volunteers her time all the time for not only for our mobile homeowners, but she grows food around her home in her mobile home park and runs a food bank out of her home and works with her church for clothing and food drives. So we would really like to go out and celebrate with Vicki. The tickets are a little pricey, but if anybody would like to donate a ticket so that some of her neighbors and supporters from the parks could attend the celebration, it would be great. So just contact me if anybody has any thoughts on that. But the tickets are cheaper in advance, is all I can say. But thank you, guys.
Hello again. Just want to put on my Oceanside Bike and Pedestrian Committee hat on. I found out a day or two ago that a Oceanside resident tragically lost his life riding an e-bike, I think Saturday night, a little after midnight, going west on Oceanside Boulevard, right towards the El Camino Real intersection. I did not know this man, but I just want to stand in solidarity and bring this to the council because I ride my bike in that exact area quite often, and it could have been me. It could have been anyone I know, or it could have been someone I know. And so I just want to bring to the council's attention that the 2009 Oceanside Bicycle Master Plan, which was updated in 2017, does basically state that there's a problem right at this intersection, that the bike lane disappears on Oceanside Boulevard about 100 to 200 feet before the intersection on both sides. On the side this gentleman was riding, there's also no sidewalk. Sometimes riding in that area for me is so dangerous that I actually have to get on the sidewalk to cross the street if I'm going east. And so I just think that, 2017 was what, 8 years ago, that this was, and probably before that, this problem has been brought to the attention of the city, that bike lanes are dangerous there, that they disappear, they conflict with right turn lanes, there's no green paint, there's really nothing for someone on a bike. So this death could have been prevented. I mean, I can't say that for sure. I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, but I just think that even a minimal restriping or bike infrastructure treatment here may have prevented this death. And it's been over 8 years that this problem has been seen. And it's just a really tragic and sad trope that in our cities, nothing happens to improve bike infrastructure until someone dies. And so I just want to say to council, I hope that you can put some pressure or put some support on the traffic engineering department to make these changes, because priority for bike infrastructure, even though we do have a great new active transportation coordinator, the priority and the funds given for bike infrastructure improvements is very low in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Knott, followed by Wendy Bravo, followed by Kathy Kinane.
Mayor, council members, Jimmy Knott, 127 Sherry Lane. A few updates here. First off, for the city manager. Due to DOGE, the city potential funding for the tree funding and upkeep has been cut on the federal level. So if we're receiving any federal funding for that, be prepared to have that axed. 2 is that the segregation underneath the law that was prohibited under 52.22221 for facilities like drinking fountains, transportation, housing based on sex, race, color, religion, orientation, gender, national origin, underneath Trump's executive order for exclusions under diversity, equity, inclusion due to the federal contractors' exclusion under that in 1965 has been taken into place. affecting defense, commerce, homeland security, DHS, and other federal agencies. So those people are now able to segregate those people who are considered under DEI. And so you be prepared for if we have any federal funding, unless it is, according to a legal opinion, precluded into our municipal law that's saying that there has to be protections. So that is according to NPR. Also, the removal of Jackie Robinson from the Department of Defense as being one of our respected people of color was done. And tomorrow, the Department of Education would be abolished, according to NPR information, by executive order. And also, conflicting regulations will come into review with the executive order, and any free speech rights that have happened here in this council regarding Israel and Palestine will be put under pressure from executive orders out of the federal office, and future funding threats if we support any transgender issues, also by executive order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Knott. Wendy Bravo?
Hi, thank you. I'm an oblate at the Prince of Peace Abbey, and it looks like this. And quite beautiful for silence and for refreshment of the soul. We have visitors that come from all over the world. This is a place where I go to pray. Camp Pendleton over there. I want to tie this in with Oceanside Boulevard, which is extremely congested several times during the day and is becoming untenable. In the middle of the night, at least 5 times, I've heard a scream of cars and loud collisions, and I'm right close to the road, so I've thrown on a bathrobe and run out there. I'm just that way. And we're commanded to be good Samaritans. I've always asked them if they want to pray, and they do, because they're desperate at that moment. One woman's boyfriend was slumped over the wheel at his Volkswagen, and when I went to the door and attempted to, see what was going on there, I felt the back of his head, and it had come off. This whole scalp had come off. I encourage you to please, as you do, I see you doing it here. Approach any development or plan for Oceanside Boulevard with the same good Samaritanism that would also encourage you to retain as far as possible the silence available here for us to replenish our souls on church ground as part of the aesthetic beauty that we can enjoy there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kinane.
So my name's Kathy Kinane, and I am the owner of 398 Vista Way, and I purchased the land in 2009 from a man who had proposed 8 single-family residents. The neighborhood opposition made it so he had to give the property up. I guess we're back in that situation again. Very disappointed in your discussion tonight, and we were very happy that we had been included in the corridor plan so there would be some option for the property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this meeting is adjourned to next Wednesday, March 26th, 3:30 for a closed session. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.